I think so. I thought they were having too much.
Sign.
This whole engineer would not put something.
Oh, there's a sign on the door.
They'll stop the auditors office.
Well, we'll call this meeting back to order. First on the agenda is Calvin Couch. Anything to say?
I don't know, that's what you say.
Well, if you do, come up to the podium for, just for the audio of it, so.
You can hear me back here. Well, as you guys know, our crossing failed finally after we've been telling you guys for 3 years. It finally is unpassable, so now the ball's in your guys' hand. What are you gonna do? Well, only talking once.
Alright, so after I closed the road down permanently because it's I deemed it unsafe for travel, we talked to Wold Engineering. They did their water study. As you can see, they come back with 2 different options. One is a, let me get the right page here. No, they don't have any of this information yet. Yeah, you can.
So at least he can follow
Yeah.
along.
You should have had it.
Sorry, what's that?
So with the name, you should have brought it up on there, I guess.
So the first option was 2. Option 1 is a, well, that's option 2. First option is or double barrel box culvert, a 16 by 9. Here we go. Mike's supposed to be here, isn't he? Is there?
I don't know, old engineering
Engineering?
vehicles downstairs. Wandering around the courthouse. Well, it looks like option 1 here, according to these 2 options, so one option is to install 3 60-inch culverts.
Right.
Looks like this would handle a 10-year discharge, and the approximate cost, the engineering estimate would be $161,000. And then option 2 is to install 2 16-foot by 9-foot reinforced concrete box culverts. This option will handle a 15-year discharge with overtopping the roadway at a cost of $478,000. But the earliest these culverts will be available is June of '23. So.
Sorry,
Well, it's just because of the cost that when we had gone over these initially, the $161,000, the culvert option, that was more of a temporary. I mean, the long-term goal would be to want to put a box culvert in here, right?
correct. The way to do it with no overtop and everything like that, the correct way, is to do the 2 16 by 9 box culverts.
Right.
I contacted Forterra, the people that manufacture them, that was 3 weeks ago. And they told me if I ordered them that day, June or July of next year is the earliest we'd even think about seeing them because they're that far behind in other projects. So obviously we had to start looking into alternatives to open the road back up. So they're right, the option 1 was, they gave us a different option of putting 3 60-inch culverts. They're not available till September or October earliest, or we can do 2 84-inch culverts, and they are with flared end sections, and they're available now. So, let's see here.
So do you think this will withstand just putting these culverts in, or is this just a temporary thing?
There's no guarantee with doing the culverts, any of the 3 different options, because they did 3 60 inches, 2 72s, or 2 84s.
Okay,
The culvert end of it, there's no guarantee it's gonna hold.
sure.
We can do our best to try to make
Is there
them.
gonna be any cement involved on there?
With the bigger culverts, yeah, there's outlet protection is recommended, and they're recommending riprap and concrete.
Sure. Cause our farm plans on staying there for quite a while, so we'd like to do it right, but I have a crop that's coming off and I need access, you know?
But I think the conversation we had was that we would want to do the culverts, just to get it going.
Sure,
But the overall long-term plan would be to start planning for a box culvert, which might take 2 to 3 years, but
okay.
in the meantime, you would have a road.
So does that mean you guys would put an order in for the box culvert, saying they're gonna take a year or two to get them?
Well, I mean, I think that's something definitely, going forward, we definitely have to discuss, but I think
You
in the
know, cause it
meantime.
ain't gonna get any better, you know, if you're gonna order them, at least you have them on hand.
Right,
So when it does blow up next spring, you probably have plan B.
well, that's where, I mean, from the engineer's estimate on it, the culvert would be able to handle a typical type beaver creek run, which seems likely at this point with the weather the way it's been, but that, that
Yeah.
can change at any moment, but if we go with the box culvert route, there's no way to get you a road very fast, that's why
Sure.
we're entertaining the culverts until we can.
And could you pull them culverts out and they'd be reusable then?
I think that's
Project?
that's the hope, is that we'd be able to recycle, hopefully the riprap, the culverts, I mean, a lot of it, I mean, we'd
Sure.
get some, but you'd hopefully be able to recoup.
I think, I talked to Wold after he did your hydraulic study, and I believe they're here. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he told me that he thinks the culverts were rusting out on the bottom side.
That's, I think,
Yeah,
talking
the-
with Skylar, yeah.
So, to reuse them again, probably not an
No,
option.
he's talking if we put
No.
new culverts in
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry, I'm
Like,
sorry.
I think the goal is we're gonna put new culverts in, but hopefully in 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
if it
Oh,
doesn't
sure.
blow out,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
could save the culverts and utilize
Oh,
them.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I'm
just
sorry, I
trying to-
misunderstood that.
Yeah,
so it's not like a total net loss on this
Sure.
deal, we
Yeah.
can hopefully recoup a lot of the material.
yeah, that's what I mean, all you got involved in is labor
And
and
I think that's why I think the culvert idea just makes so much sense
just
right
getting
now,
by.
because
Yeah.
get it going until we can get a better plan.
Maybe there can be some other funding available then too.
Well, like we had talked about before, the prairie dog is
Yeah.
very likely, and this would be a prime candidate for a project like that. I mean, that would be first on my list, probably this one and that Wobon Bridge, those are two.
I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
John.
John,
Yep,
you're here representing Wold, correct?
yep.
In this scenario with the new culverts, is it raising the finished product any as compared to what is there now?
Yeah, I submitted a couple different options. We could raise the road to various elevations with bigger culverts, and obviously that would pass a larger flow. Some of those, the velocities coming off that thing are gonna be pretty high. Ultimately, I think a box culvert would be the best option down the road.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I think that raising it up would eliminate some of the dip that you're always driving across to
Yeah.
smooth
on quite a
smooth
bit.
that travel, but we can't be restricting water flow behind us. So, Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
because I would like to see that raised a little more so that it's a more smooth transition.
Yeah, we have to raise to 1847.30. It's right now, I believe it's at 1845. So, like 2 feet, just about 2 foot I have to raise. Now that's, do you have any spot where we can get borrow dirt out there close? Cause that
Yeah,
always helps the time frame.
yeah, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, I need to get a crop off, you know, I mean, that's
Yep.
my business. But I would like it that you guys order the cement ones and do it right in a year or so, if you can do that, I mean, just give me a temporary and then do it right, cause the farm ain't going nowhere, and if you're gonna build it for 10 years, that ain't gonna work, you know, it's just gonna cost more than 10 years, you're putting a Band-Aid on a big sore.
I don't think anybody wants to put the culvert in except for the fact that we know you'll never get anything else if we don't do it.
That's what I
You know,
mean,
that's right, I mean, it is a Band-Aid, we'll admit it, but that's the only way to get you a road probably in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
And
but if you order the cement ones, wouldn't that be,
Well, I
you
think
know,
that's
here,
what we
if
need to
it's
do
gonna
is-
take a year anyways, you're
Mhm.
talking a year, so.
Well, we do probably need to follow through with that too, but I do know, just for the sake of conversation, that the Prairie Dog has requirements on engineering and specking, so, we'll have to make sure we're going through with that if that's our funding plan, but I don't see that being an issue, it's just that it'll take a little more time, but yeah, I think the overall goal is to put a box culvert in there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can get you guys' word on that, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
seems like we've been chasing this rabbit for, I think my dad come in 12 years ago and you guys kinda blew him off then, and we come in 3 years ago and you guys forgot about it or didn't think it was that important, and now here I am again, I got other stuff to do, I don't wanna be here,
Mhm.
you know, and I don't think you guys want me here really, just, I want you to do it right, and You know, seems like if you guys do your job right, you don't have to redo things.
Well, I think if box culvert was available to us right now, we'd probably just go ahead with that.
That's why I think you guys should order one now and put a temporary in, and then when it's here, swap it out. I know it's not that easy just to swap it out.
There's nowhere else to get them box culverts? Or,
Well, there's only like one or two manufacturers of concrete box culverts in the United States.
so like in Minokan up there, what do they make culverts?
That's Portero,
That's who we
that's what I
talked
talked
about.
to.
But I know even originally when I asked Mike just to go do the evaluation, and I said, well, it's gonna be a box culvert, right? He goes, probably. And I said, well, what's that even looking like? And that's what he kinda said the same thing Skylar did. He's like, you're a year out plus. He's like, you'll never get a box culvert unless you wanna close that road for a year or two, which is not really an option. So that's where the culvert discussion became the immediate discussion just to get the road working, so.
So how bad is that culvert as far as going over it? I know you said it's not safe, but.
Current
The current culverts in there? Yeah, the bottoms are rusting
Yeah,
out, and the
it's
concrete's
dropping by the
collapsing.
day it's dropping, it's gonna go down.
You can,
make it with the car.
yeah, you might, yeah. It's-
Bottom of your house.
That's why we have the road closed now, and
So taking trucks over there would never.
No, not.
There's no alternative right now other than put the culverts in.
either
Take
go
the
around
ones
that,
out, put the new
what is
ones
it,
in.
8 miles?
Yeah, something like that.
Either detour 8 miles or put the.
And
culverts
I
in.
think right now the creek's way down, so it'd probably be your best bet.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it.
Absolutely.
That's why I said if you put the cement ones and they do take a year to get, I don't imagine, you know, by that time it's when you said you wanna swap it out.
Yep.
Should work.
What would you put over the top?
Right now, it's just gravel and some rock, I mean, which we all know it's a low water crossing, so in the springtime, like, I think we closed it 4 times this year, cause
Yeah,
we
it's getting,
had it open, then it, more rain, and
The
so.
last couple of years, it's been, since that culvert's kind of plugged up, there's some small and stuff, it's been up to 20, 30 days at a time that
Yep.
we have no access. It's getting to just deteriorate. It's
and it did its job, I mean, it's been in there, they redid it 50 years ago, it's not like it was a surprise to anyone that it didn't, and that's, I guess, what I want again, I mean, we got a guy living on the farm now that wants to farm, and he's got probably 50 years in him, so it's not like it's abandoned farm, or it's a progressive farm, so, I guess I do my business right, and I'd like you guys to do your business right.
about 100 loads going across there, maybe more, just this fall, but gotta go across one way or the other.
Yeah, so I guess my recommendation is if we wanna proceed with it, is just put the temporaries in and then keep. I would probably, for the availability and the, what is it, $2,000 more,
Yeah.
is do the bigger culverts. It's gonna cost a little bit more in concrete if we decide to concrete the riprap on the side, and then keep proceeding with the box culvert end of it. And if we do this one right, and we have a decent runoff that it handles it, and it pushes it back another year, at least you still have a road,
Mm-hmm,
you know?
yeah.
That's our, if we have an abnormal,
And we've always taken care of the road ourselves, kinda, I mean, when there's ice jam, we go down there, track road, keep it flowing, you know?
yeah, and that way, if this spring, if we get a really bad winter and a fast runoff and it pulls it out, and hopefully the culvert's is still there and we can put them back in, just because we kinda know that this is gonna be kind of a temporary.
Yeah, as long as we're all on the same
Temporary
page,
fix.
it's temporary, I don't want,
But we'll definitely need some help.
yeah.
We'll
I-
borrow dirt, because if we gotta bring it up 2 feet, and I don't know if you have rock anywhere close,
Yeah,
so we can
I'm
rip wrap.
on board, we can do whatever we need to do.
And that's
We'll
that's
give
how
you
we,
access to it, right next door, or right there, we'll take the fence away, you can use that for your equipment, we'll work with you.
yeah, and that's what we're looking for too, is we have to help each other.
Yeah, I agree with that
Because
100%.
Makes the projects run smoother, and
You've kinda got everything lined up, I mean, you're ready to start soon, right?
just need the okay to order the culverts, I guess. And
How much, how long till the culverts are here? You said it earlier.
Last I talked to them, actually we talked to them twice now, and what was it? Last Thursday, and they were still available, so.
Okay,
And I believe they were coming out of Huron, South
okay.
Dakota. Huron or Fargo, because they have a manufacturing
Is
plant.
that the 2 big ones or the 3 small ones?
2 big ones, 284 inch. Because the 360 inches, because they have to be 50 feet long, they wouldn't be available till mid-September, mid-October. By that time, you're probably done
Yeah,
combining almost, so.
Well, I'd say, I mean, for the sake of time here and everything, I mean, if we're all in agreement, we wanna do the 284-inch culverts and we wanna get it going, it'd be nice to just put it in motion that way for argument's sake, it's something I got discussed at the meeting, so.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Everly makes a motion to, go forward with the 284-inch culverts and the other needed labor and materials to repair this road.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Michael. For interest of discussion, so you're gonna be doing that labor, I mean, our crew's gonna.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
do that in-house,
Okay.
so.
I'll get you his number, I won't be around for a while, so.
As soon as we can, we've got a few things we have to tie up,
Okay.
but
Well, till the culverts get here, it's a few
Yeah,
days.
so-
Right, but as soon
And
as.
maybe
as
send
soon
some
as,
around and
as
start
soon as
tearing
they
it
show
out or
up,
something.
we're gonna start on it right
Yeah, I
away.
need to make that a priority.
Yeah, it'll be a priority, and it might be about a, depending on how things go,
Yeah,
a week, maybe two.
Okay.
How long is it gonna take you to do that?
That's what
Maybe
it's,
about a week, maybe two, depending on how things go, and,
Sure.
you know,
get the right weather.
if we get a flash flood, then, which we're hoping not, but probably shouldn't even have said that, but,
Mr. Kellis, did you have something to say?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
If you wanna meet with me sometime, call me,
okay,
and I'll show you, you tell me what fences to move, whatever to do.
okay, well, I'll probably within the next day or two, so that way, that's already done, and we can just keep this ball rolling and getting it done as quick as
I have
possible.
access to a lot of rock like this, so
Perfect, that's
they're all piled up and waiting.
that's what we're looking for, so. And thank you.
Well, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor of going forward with this project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
But we are gonna still work on the box culvert.
Yes, no, that is the long-term goal here, I mean, that's what we're working with.
That is the only place in Emmons County that there is no box culvert or nothing on paper. That's the last
And
one.
it's gonna be an issue again, I mean, we've already accepted this is a temporary fix,
Yeah.
we'll get you a road while we're working on the box culvert.
All we want.
Alright.
Fair enough?
There.
Okay, thank you guys.
Yep.
Old engineering.
Good afternoon. My name is John Martin with Wold Engineering. I'm just here to talk about, well, I probably want two things now. but I have some handouts here too.
If you do it at, there's 3 different sets per, there's only 7 copies of each.
Sure. There's enough copies.
So the first thing, or the top thing, is a bridge over on the south branch of Beaver Creek. It's on 20th Avenue Southeast. Back in, it must have been in May or June. We worked with John to apply for bridge funding to replace this structure. It's part of the Build Back Better federal funds. And this bridge was actually accepted or approved for 100% funding to replace it. So we're gonna, and it's accepted for 2024 to get constructed. And then next year, and this winter, you would actually have to go through the preliminary engineering interview process to accept an engineer to eventually design this bridge for next year.
So this is the bridge that we replanked by Larry Lyers and Deion Singers.
That's what they
Like
think.
where we put the planks on, John put it on for application and it got approved for 100% replacement.
Really?
So that's what he's talking about.
Same size or bigger or what?
We actually, preliminary, we said a box culvert. I think it was a triple cell, 12 by, it's gonna be slightly smaller. But box culverts, they're more efficient than a bridge, so.
And that's kind of what the federal government's trying to do, is get away from a little bit of bridges and try to do more box culverts and stuff like that, kind of, sort of.
Maybe, for the flows on this location, a box culvert just kind of makes sense.
Yep.
There's some benefits to it too, you get the box culvert outside the, clear zone, so then you don't have to worry about guardrail on bridges. That's kind of a huge benefit.
So just, yeah, so like John said, the county will have to interview for engineering firms for the project. When do we want to start these interview processes? And I'd suggest either October or November, so we get the ball rolling. And then, would two commissioners like to sit in on the interview process with the engineers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to think here, so you wanna,
Well, we'll have to be advertised in the paper.
right, that's
Just
what I'm
like we-
saying, there's a process to this.
Just kinda like you guys did for Rice Lake,
Right,
that process, so.
so, I'm just wondering, does the process dictate when we'll have the meeting, or do we, you know, because there's a certain period you have to have it in the paper, yes, you can't pick a date too soon.
How long is it with us?
I'd have to look at the century code for sure, but I don't want to say for sure, but I think the advertising has to be in not early, you can't interview any earlier than 2 weeks, but I'm not sure.
Well, we'll have to look into that some more as far as the timelines and stuff like that, but yeah, we should probably, you know, try and schedule some kind of an interview process, like you said, in October or even November or whatever, just to continue on, because the one thing about it, same with like Kelvin's project, if there's gonna be funding out there, especially Prairie Dog and all these different things, everybody's gonna be doing projects. So the waiting list is only gonna get worse the longer we wait, because I'm sure products are gonna get ordered like crazy and box culverts and the like, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's say,
John, does the preliminary and design have to be advertised as, and the construction?
No, just preliminary and design.
Okay. How about the construction for the engineering?
You'll have to actually do that again.
Yeah, that's what I would ask, we'll need to do it twice then.
Yeah.
yeah, the federal government makes it easy.
Huh?
So the federal government makes it easy, you know, you gotta hire someone to design it, then you gotta interview and hire someone to actually build it, and, yeah. Okay?
I guess if there's no other questions on that, we could, the Kelch crossing, I included that, but looks like we already got that kind of figured out. And then otherwise, I included a fence survey that we completed.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize, Mike had a family emergency, so he couldn't be here, so I don't know much about it. I included a map of what we did survey. Just showing the fence and the section line.
Yeah, I think we came to a conclusion on that this morning.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yep, so,
We're good
the
to go.
only thing we would probably need, just for the time being, is our state's attorney will probably have to get a hold of you and get, like some varying distances on that existing fence.
I got the original right, oh, on the fence too.
Right, we'll need the, you know, I'm sure you have that in your raw data, you
Yep,
can get a
yep,
whole
we can
lot.
figure that out.
He'll
That's
need
fair.
that to kind of go through some of this paperwork on that, so
Okay,
he'll probably be getting a hold of you or somebody along that line to get that
Okay.
information.
That's easy enough.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, I think with this, I mean, when you have a bridge that qualifies for 100% funding, then it's pretty foolish to deny it, so I'd say move forward with it, so. I'd say Skylar, if you wanna work with Joe and Marlis on when the timelines are right and stuff, and then maybe we'll all get together and figure out a date that works with the law, so that we're not violating nothing. I would say at that time, we can pick two commissioners who's ever available to, because I think last time we did 2 commissioners, and we did the road superintendent, I think John Ibach, and I think it might have just been 4 of us.
Well, there was Gar was on there.
Was it Gar? Yeah, I believe so, Gar and John, and then 2 commissioners on the interview for that.
Who'd you go? Me?
I don't remember
was on
which
it.
time, because one time was the preliminary and one time was the construction, and I don't remember which one was. Like I said, there were so many interviews, I can't remember which one you're on. Okay, so yeah, I'd say we're gonna try and move forward with this.
Okay.
box culvert
Okay.
project.
I guess just my last thing is, the county commissioner convention in October, you're scheduled for 10 AM to meet with the DOT, so I'll attend that as well.
Okay, that's for our federal aid.
Yep, they'll update you on future funding and availability, and eventually I'll get some more projects on the list if you come up with something.
Is that at the Civic Center again, at the exhibition?
It is, yeah.
Upstairs
Yeah.
room, usually it's upstairs, right?
Well, last year was downstairs,
Downstairs, that's right, yeah.
Not right in the civic center, right in the event center,
kinda in between the two.
in between.
Yeah, it's a weird location,
Mhm.
How long they usually take?
but not long,
10,
15
15
10,
minutes? Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
What's the date on that again?
It's October 3rd, and you're at 10 AM.
I think if you wanna relay a message to Mike, or even for yourself on that too, that we're interested in moving forward with the Kelch project.
Okay,
As with the box culvert, especially since the opportunity for price and grade out funding might be available, so.
okay.
So we want, I mean, just to put it in his ear that we're
Yeah.
gonna do the temporary, but we also wanna keep pursuing the box culvert, so whatever
Okay.
processes we gotta start.
What are you thinking, maybe start it next?
Well, I mean, as soon as, I mean, like I said, if we could get a culvert, I mean, they say June of 23 now, even if it's September of 23, I mean, that's a year out. I mean, that would be ideal, sooner the better, so especially if that prairie dog funding's probably gonna come to us, I believe, in the first quarter or two.
Hopefully.
I mean, right, there's a lot of questions yet,
Yeah.
but the conversations I've had with people is that it's very likely, so if that does happen, we wanna be on the front of these lists rather than the 53rd county doing a project, so.
Okay.
The only problem is that ordering a culvert now, we order it now, and there would be some funding, and they would say, well, you ordered the culvert, or they're not gonna pay for that, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Well, and the other problem too is I know there is red tape with the prairie dog funding as
Yeah.
far as, like, there's things we probably gotta do research on, but the goal is if it would fit, that's what we wanna do.
Okay.
I'd say that one, and then I know he's looked at the Wobon one for us too, if you wanna make it own Braddock, but
Okay.
those are two, if we can move forward with them, I'd say they'd probably be on the top of the list, just cause that perfectly fits with what that funding was made for, so.
Exactly, yeah.
So just keep that in your back
Okay.
pocket or whatever, that we're looking to probably pursue both of them at this point.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep them both on the list, so.
Okay.
Okay.
John, do you know that prairie dog funding, are we gonna have to go through the same
I have,
advertising and everything as we are with that other bridge one?
I have a feeling, yes.
Okay.
And we'll have to go through probably all the normal class 3 survey and wetland delineation.
And that's to say the legislature doesn't add some hurdles to it as well, or, I mean, cause it's gotta go through the session, I think, before they actually release the funding, so who knows what's gonna happen. But
Exactly.
as it's sitting right now, looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, thank you. Nothing else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay,
Well, thank you.
thanks for coming in.
Yep.
Mike Paul, we take you right now.
Hey, guys. I own some land out by Beaver Bay, and I've been working with the Corps, actually, my son-in-law has, Levi Jangle, he does a lot of that up in the oil field. And, I'm trying to get an easement on a road that goes, it would be the east side of Beaver Bay. And, I brought some maps, but I think they said he was gonna pull it up also if you guys wanna. But, I have a copy of the email that, they sent to Levi saying it'd probably be the easiest route would be to go through you guys and have you get an easement. And then you could grant me an easement. And, the road, you can see right on there, that corner there, it basically is right beside my property. I mean, you're talking maybe like 5 feet. I mean, and it's all level, I don't really need an approach or nothing, but I do need, before I spend the money to put power and stuff in there, I wanna make sure that, I have basically an easement saying, I have access to go through that 5 feet of property, you know. I'm not looking, you know, for anything on the road to be redone, it would just be summertime, so we're looking into, and I'm not gonna be selling lots in there, it's just gonna be our family, basically. You know, looking at, I guess 3 or 4, you know, cabins someday, not all right away. So I was just, wondering if you guys would be interested in pursuing that, and Levi said he would draw up the paperwork and everything to submit it on your guys' behalf, of course, because, they're more likely to grant easement if it would go through you guys. So I'm just asking, if you guys would work with me and try to get that done, or,
Well, I think it'd be similar to like what we had with that Bavindick easement that we just went through that the Corps uses. Basically, we have no responsibility to it, but the Corps likes granting easement to a government subdivision rather than an individual. So
Right.
I think that's where,
that's what it kinda sounded
Right,
like.
I think that'd be
And I mean,
very similar.
if you wanna see a copy of this, I'm not just making it up, they sent him a copy, so I made a copy that says where they suggested go through the county,
so I think the trails basically are for recreational use, and the fear is that someday the Corps shuts down recreational, then Mike's got.
Right, I mean, I'm looking at, I had it checked years ago, it was 6-7 years ago, and it was about 30,000 to get the power in there, now I'm guessing it's 50 or better, so I don't wanna do that, and then all of a sudden, I put up a cabinet or two, and the court says, whoa, wait a minute, now, we decided we don't wanna let you go through this, So, we just, and access through the top, that's pretty rough land, it's pretty tough, So,
Yeah, it's pretty rough country up there.
right, and I mean, it'd be different if we're talking a half mile of road building, but it's literally right beside it, just basically lay the fence down and drive it in my land, there is a fence, so it doesn't need a big approach, it doesn't need culverts.
I think most likely, like with a Corps easement, like with that Bavindick one, I don't think we can actually do anything on it anyway, the Corps pretty much restricts that, so. Basically, we just be securing easements so that some individuals can access their property, so. I think
That's what I would mainly be looking at, is just some kind of, guarantee that, I don't spend that kind of money, and then they turn around in a few years and, and shut it down, and like I said, I'm not looking to, develop it all and sell a bunch of lots.
Well, I
It
think,
would just be our family, basically.
I think if you-
I don't wanna say, you never know what happens someday when they're gone, or, sell it or something,
I think,
but as
if
of now,
I think if you had Levi and probably your Corps guy get with Joe on, language for
Yeah.
easement, I mean, like I said, we already kinda have an example with that Bavindick one, I imagine it'd be very similar, so.
And like I said, he said he would draw everything up, the proposal, everything, he does that all the time, but, it just kinda has to be, that you guys will back it and stuff, so.
Because I don't see a problem with having all of that,
I mean,
as
I
long
would,
as the expectation isn't that we have to build a road in there.
nope,
It's just-
I'm not expecting anything,
I think just securing easement, we've already done that before, I don't see it being a problem, so.
yeah, okay,
I'd say if you wanna forward to your guys to talk to Joe, just to make sure that the
okay, I'll have
paperwork
it.
gets done right.
All right,
You got any issue or anything to add with that, Joe, or?
I don't think so, yeah, just, you gotta reach out to me, I guess.
yeah. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, with one quick agenda item before we move on to any other stuff here, was that utility permit for West Massel, so Skylar already basically handled it, told me he's gonna board it, so if anybody has any issue with the utility permit.
Well, over lunch break, I got a phone call from, kind of parlays into this, so, from Colmock. He's looking for rural water up there. I think you're aware of the situation.
Yeah,
So in order to get rural water there now, we'd have to, like 1,300 feet of boring in the county right away,
right,
which he's not crossing it, he's gonna go parallel with it to get it into his property. 1,300 feet's a lot to bore.
But I don't think it was, I don't think it was, I don't think it was as far as boring on the property, it's underneath the road.
Well, it's in our right of way.
Yeah, I know.
Permit states in our right of way. So whether it's underneath the road,
because I mean,
kind of parallel with it,
so I was out there because Cole had asked me about getting rural water, and the assumption was is that the rural water main was in the road ditch going to Dave Mock's, but it never did go that far, it stopped at Mark Schmidt's. So Mike Appert owns all that land now, and apparently, I'm assuming that Cole made that call to you that he ain't getting an easement from Mike then, because that was what he was gonna do. So if he hasn't got an easement from Mike, he would need to use the the road right away, which if you, I mean, I know there's rural water right on the edges of the right of way, like basically putting it at like 33 feet and then you're putting it down like 8 or 9 feet. I don't know if that's an issue or not, I mean, that's a big thing, but basically if the landowner's not granting an easement through there, that's the only trouble.
I told him I would discuss the county right of way, stuff like that, as for the easements with rural water and other people, that's on him.
Well, I'm just making the assumption, he wouldn't be coming to us if he got easement from the neighbor, so I'm assuming he's not getting easement or something, so. That or he hasn't pursued the easement because he's trying to get the county right away, which is possible too, but.
I believe he said that he's contacted Appert, and I don't know if they're playing phone tag or what.
Well, I
So he's
know,
looking at different alternatives in case something doesn't, because he doesn't want to be in
yeah,
December and not have water.
well, there is rural water in right of ways around the county, I mean, there are spots where it's in the bottom of the ditch basically, it's in 8, 9 feet deep, 10 feet deep, so. I mean, this one, he wouldn't probably even be in the road ditch, he'd probably be on the edge of the right of way,
Probably on the back.
probably on the back.
Depends
slope,
on
which-
where rural water.
There really isn't much back slope on this, there's not a huge profile of this road, it's probably a 1.5 foot difference between the shoulder of the road and the bottom of the ditch in some of these spots, so. So I don't know. I guess-
Is it main road or main?
Well, it's the road that goes off of 62nd there, goes by Tom Vetch's and then goes up to Mark Schmidt's. Then it goes north to Dave Mox, and then it kind of dead ends in Dave Mox, and that's where the section line kind of quits, so. So I wouldn't say it's, I mean, it is a, like a main, it's a certified piece of gravel road. It's not like federal aid road or anything like that, so. I guess I don't have a problem with it going in inside the right of way if it's 8, 9 feet deep. I don't know, what's your opinion on
How are we gonna make them bore that 1,300 feet?
it? I mean, that's,
So backhoe or?
I would assume they'd probably backhoe if you're not gonna bore it, which. I guess I don't see the big issue with it, but then again, it's,
Probably on the road.
well, I mean, the only thing about it is I know it's not gonna be like a main line, it's gonna be like 2-inch line, so it's not like it's a huge issue if it would have to be moved. It's not like it's like an 8 or 10-inch pressurized main line that's affecting 40 farms, so. You know, whether or not it's a big deal or not with that, I mean, with the depth of it, I don't think it would be an issue.
I'd say you're better off if you could get easement from Appert.
Well,
Yeah, it would be, but, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know that for sure.
mhm.
Not 100% sure, but this, because when he, if he has to come to the county right away, he's gonna have to file for a permit.
Right.
Permit says bore everything. 1,300 feet is a lot different than just boring underneath the right of way, 60.
I mean, that's a long way.
So
That's a 33-foot right away too, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. I don't like things in the right of way. That's the reason why for the hesitation, because that's the reason. It's one thing to cross it perpendicular, you get across to another thing, but to run parallel along it for 1,300 feet is 9 times out of 10 probably not gonna be an issue with this because of the depth, but 10 years from now, when something else changes and all of a sudden you go, why did we let them put it in the right of way? That's the problem. I mean, that's, so, kind of like the Dave Tadowski's road now, where, you know, you gotta go just a hair outside the right of way, and now you got this big pipeline moving on.
At the same token, you don't wanna use 9 water either.
Well, right, that's the hard part, because if you can't get easement from the neighbors and you don't let them use that, you're basically saying you can't have water. Gave a building permit, no, can't get water.
Is that cropland of Appert's or what is
It's
it?
prairie.
You would think he'd allow that.
Well, maybe he hasn't asked though, so I
Right.
just wanna jump to
Pursue
conclusions,
that
maybe he's
first,
just trying to.
Get the definite yes or no,
Yeah,
and then we go after it again.
Well, I think in this case, it would be best to direct it towards an easement from a landowner, because I'm just keeping things out of the right of way is the best practice.
Yeah,
It's just,
I think so, too.
I mean, pretty soon then we're letting everybody put everything in the right of way because they can't get easements from the neighbors, and then that's a bad system too, so
Yeah.
I'd say we probably have to try and get them.
Yeah.
So, I would say at this point, probably no.
No to the whole thing, or just no to open cut, or trenching it in there?
I suppose if
Because
it's
we can't really, you're not gonna deny them access into the right of way since, I mean, I get the
Right, I
the
guess,
difference
yeah.
because we're
Right,
going parallel versus just a straight across.
right, I suppose if you would, if they would bore it for 1,300 feet, but that's.
That's kind of the main
I
question
don't know if
on there.
that's feasible, I mean, that's,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
so
it's
that's-
doable, but I don't know if anybody can pay for it.
Yeah, cause boring's super expensive
Yeah. it's
versus
probably-
66 feet versus 100 or 1,300, so.
Right. Well, but then the question, I do have one question now. Because rural water, South Central Regional Water, I believe, does have water lines in our right of way.
Right.
Is it Cole Lock asking for right of way, or is it South Central Regional Water? I mean, that's the other question too, because where they put the meter dictates who owns the pipeline or not. I mean, they might have a landowner pay for it, but South Central will still like have rights to it. Because, I mean, we have allowed a co-op to put in the right of way, so that's probably the better question. Is it an individual asking us to put his pipeline in the right of way, or is it South Central Regional Water as the co-op? Because that, in my mind, that changes it a little bit. Because you probably allow Cam or Beck in a certain scenario to do it, and South Central Regional Water fits that mold too, so.
Well, I believe it's just, he's just trying to get options, what his
Right.
best thing is, so if he
Right.
contacts rural water and they're like, yeah, we'll get it to this far, and then it's your responsibility.
That's what I'm saying, though, South Central Regional Water is technically gonna be like the owner of it, they're making it pay for it because it's
Yeah.
his service, but they're gonna have the rights to it, it's gonna be their easement. That would give me a little more difference, because then that pipeline could probably be added on to future users, which, I mean, we've always worked with co-ops trying to keep things working around here, so that would change things a little bit, in my opinion, anyway, that's the way I feel about it. If it's an individual putting a pipeline in, then you're kind of giving preference to somebody, if it's a co-op, it's kind of for the greater good, so maybe clarify some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna meet with him on Thursday about some other issues.
Okay,
He just called me over lunch and told him I'd bring it up and see what, but now that all makes sense, that it's the co-op gonna do it, and he's just, now he knows more steps that he's gotta take. so
right,
that
well,
just clarifies
I'd be
it.
way more favorable to South Central Regional Water getting an easement in our right of way. I feel a lot more comfortable than that than just an individual person kind of getting some preference, so I guess that's my feeling, okay?
So, back to the original permit, I have, you know, what's that one, the land one, there's nothing
Yeah,
we discussed it, so.
Okay, well, he's gonna
Before-
board it, and that's the agreement we talked about, I guess.
Make a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve utility permit by Commissioner Everly. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Calder. Any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Permit approved. Okay, well, the agenda items are clear till 3 o'clock, so,
Do we do the gravel meetings on the second?
oh, yep, no, I missed that, there was another guy out there. Okay, good point.
Mr. Chairman, I think these people are here.
Right, but that's
what. This morning.
Okay, well, that's where I thought we
Oh.
would take some of these folks here, 'cause I know people are here for stuff, so. Graveling on 82nd, that, we can push that out,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
later, so, okay. Who wants to be first?
Commissioners, yes, I'm Becky Wald, and I'm a landowner. I guess we have a question about a bridge that has some issues. I was informed that the bridge is on 63rd Street, just off, about exactly 2 miles east. And apparently the county road grader will not use the bridge because it's in very poor condition. And one of the neighbors that needed to haul hay their hay hauler may not use the bridge, and it's getting in pretty poor condition. So
This is a wood deck bridge, correct?
Skylar, didn't we have that inspected? Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, I believe, is that the one with the metal bars running across the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually on our bridge inspection report, and it's in fair condition, so it's not load rated or anything like that.
Cause someone had called
Yeah,
last month, or did you bring it up? I think you brought it up.
Probably brought it up.
And we had it pulled from the bridge inspection deal. The DOT does our bridge inspections and they cleared it. They said it's in, I mean, quote me on it, but it's in, operating condition.
yeah,
it's fair
operating
and
condition, I don't believe it's load rated. Or else if it was load rated, it'd have to have signs up on it, so
So what is the load restriction on it then?
there's no load restrictions on it. We'd
Well,
have to have it.
there's gotta be
a weight limit on the bridge.
Actually, it was there and it disappeared, the sign for weight maximum. Something happened to the signs. I'm not sure what, but they're not there.
I think it was 200,000.
Well, I mean, with the bridge being inspected, I imagine we could probably get an answer on it.
Yeah, I would-
200,000 seems a little fat.
Yeah.
I don't wanna call anybody a liar here. It's a little hefty maybe, but.
The assumed weight restriction on a county road is 80,000, unless otherwise posted, so if the bridge isn't posted, my assumption would be what the road is weighted for,
Right.
and that is 80,000.
I think we could easily get that cleared up.
Yeah,
All we
like
could do
I
is
will-
call the bridge inspector or DOT, they could easily, I mean, if we need to, maybe we should post it even if there isn't a rating, I would just,
They don't, there's some
or they don't,
Legal-
they don't wanna do that.
legal stuff with that, but the best thing I can do now is go back and relook at it, and if that needs to be load rated, we'll put the signs up there, if not, then it's 80,000 pounds.
But that bridge
That
gets,
is, yeah,
that gets
it's in there
inspected yearly, right?
every 2 years.
2 years in April, so it just got
They
inspected
inspected
in
this
April.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the reason why we're all here is because of concerns of people not wanting to cross it because of weight.
Well, I think someone that's the rumor mill that starts in the cafes, I think, that just someone says,
Well, the road grader, or the county road grader will not go across it because he's,
and I'm not aware that the county road grader won't go across it because of weight.
I guess it won't cross it. But they take semi-loaded grain across it, combine, whatever stack mover loaded, not a problem. Never been a problem. That bridge isn't that old either.
And now we have a new grader operator there, now been up there 2 years now,
One of these.
or a year. So that might have been the old road grader operator that said something, so I think we're speculating now, and I think the best thing to do is let us look into it, and if it needs to be load rated, we'll get it load rated. But as of now, I don't deem it unsafe.
well, we just wanna make sure because, you know, there is wide and heavy loads that go across there, and if something happens or if all of a sudden, we don't wanna end up with the last guy that was here where it's gone. Then you're scrambling. I just don't wanna end up that way. I wanna make sure that we can cross, but there's at least 7 to 8 landowners around there that need to that use that every day, so I wanna make sure that bridge is going to be there.
Well, I guess the only thing to say is that it has been inspected recently and it was deemed fine. I mean, we have a report, so, I mean, if that puts you guys to ease on that, I mean.
I just think there should be a sign there, X amount of pounds,
Sure. Well, we can look into it, I mean, they probably have a number to that bridge and everything, we can easily reference it and see if they wanna double check it and do something like that. I don't see that being a problem, so probably just be in contact with the DOT and see how they wanna proceed with, signage if they do wanna sign it. If they don't wanna sign it, then like Skylar said, the assumption is that you can drive on like any other road, 80,000, so.
Yeah, because like this Larry Longer bridge that we actually filed to get replaced, the DOT actually contacted us and said they needed it to be load rated, and we had to send them pictures when it's up and everything like that, so they're
Yeah,
doing their due diligence.
yeah, that would be probably a good idea, just to have the next guy up, kind of look at it, because it does look scary. You know, those of us that cross it a lot,
The state DOT hires a consulting firm that comes out and inspects them, so there is nobody higher to look at it than those guys. So.
And we contract with them to do it, so I mean, it's not like they just randomly inspect them, they come out every 2 years as a part of the process, so. So it's got a history of being inspected too, though, that's.
right, as long as they're aware, it's not just a car going across there.
Right, well, I mean, that's
They-
where,
It's heavy.
They have a formula, it's actually different combination vehicles. They have a semi with just the trailer, then they have a semi with a pup, then they have super trucks now with like the 6 axles underneath the like grain truck and stuff like that, so they take all that into consideration. They just don't, Carl will pass it good enough, so they have a formula they use.
Right, and then, you know, it's been a little bit of time since I've actually seen it, but, you know, there is erosion that happens, so is there upkeep on it? Just to make sure that things don't.
Erosion, like, are you talking in the,
Sometimes
at
on
the
the
front of
side,
it, or?
Well, sometimes there'll be a hole or something, or, you know, some erosion on the sides maybe, just to make sure that, you know, something.
You guys gotta realize too that a stack mover is never legally weighted. I mean, we all gotta realize this, right?
Well, if
They allow them to go down the highway, but they're overweight empty. So this bridge is gonna take a hell of a lot of load on it.
Well, if you're going across the bridge with overweight, you take all responsibility for crossing that bridge when you're fully
The
loaded.
problem is it's the absolute only way in and out of that land. I mean, that is the only way up there.
Understood that, but we can lighten up our loads on our stack moves. Does it cost more to move hay? Yes, but
How come they don't do it when they're driving down the road then? Because they're overloaded there too. Any stack mover you put a scale under when it's loaded with hay on the highway,
you're not
they get to
gonna,
run red fuel yet too.
you're not gonna fall in a road. Like, the bridges are different.
There's all these bridges though, going over any road, these stack movers just don't drive over this one bridge.
well, I think, I mean, the main thing with this, I mean, the main thing just for you folks, though, is that the bridge gets inspected every 2 years. There's a history of inspection, if it was deteriorating, they would know as well, and they submit that report to us, I mean, we're more than happy to give it to you as well, so, I mean, it might look worse than it is, but the DOT is who we rely on for our bridge inspections, and they seem to not have a problem with it, so at this point, you know, if they tell us it's good, we're gonna say it's good. I mean, now, if there's some weight posting we can do, we can check into that, but they're basically saying it's good to go for, like what we talked about, the reasonable legal limit. So,
I would like that report.
sure, I mean, it's
Just
more,
to
I mean,
kind of keep it in hand, because
Yeah.
if something, goes across here that's way less,
yeah,
and it goes in the river, or, yeah, I shouldn't say river, but creek or whatever, that would be bad.
right? But I mean, that's all, like I said, that's all we can do is get it inspected, and, you know, biannually, which we do. And they give it a clean bill of health at least, so.
If someone breaks through that bridge and they're legal weight, who's gonna be responsible for that? The county?
I suppose it would depend on the situation. I'd imagine the judge would probably sort out who's responsible.
DOT.
I mean, well, I mean, yeah, there's a certain responsibility. I'm sure everybody bears on it, the inspecting entity, the people who own it, yeah, but I mean, we're following a process that's, you know, dictated down to us by legislation, that we have to get it inspected every 2 years. We can either get our own engineering firm, or we can do it through the DOT, which they offered it. The DOT was far more reasonable because they're doing all their own bridges, they're all over the state. So majority of counties sign on with the DOT, and then they inspect it as a part of I think we've got 8 major bridges and like 30 smaller ones or something. It's a pretty big roster that they inspect, you know, year to year and stuff, and then they have a history of inspection because they've been inspected multiple years, so. I mean, that's the process almost every other county follows, and it's all through the DOT, so.
Well, and this bridge does, I've seen it where the water covers the road and washes the road in front of it to the south. And this goes into Badger Creek, and there's a lot of water there. It would wash that bridge out. I mean, you know, I mean, I know it's been there a long time, but it's still, I mean, it should be kind of maybe on a list of maybe bridges that you get some funding, can be replaced or whatever, just some of this, the width is, that's not very wide. I mean, we have actually used blocks to bring up the drill so that we could get it across there, and then it kind of break down to there, or you know what I'm saying, you know, 'cause how are you gonna get across there?
The width of it is a hindrance. It would be nice if it was wider, I mean, obviously. Because when I pull my drills across, there's 2 runs dragging on each side of it. I mean, it is, I realize it is what it is there, but, you know.
Is a bridge built during a simpler time, I
Well,
assume?
that's what I'm saying.
We're victims of the time on that one, right?
It was made to haul an M and a 3-bottom plow, not what we're doing these days, and that's what makes me nervous, you know? It just, I wonder what year that bridge is. Would you guys know?
The inspector, if there's a build plan and stuff like that, they have a general idea.
I'm just curious to know how old that bridge really is.
Probably, I'm gonna look at
I was gonna say Kenny probably knows as good as anybody. I mean, he's been out there, I mean, you've been living out there your whole life pretty much, so.
Well, we can definitely look into it and make sure that if you want a copy of the report,
Yes,
we
that,
can get to that.
like I say,
Absolutely.
just put it on your list of maybe bridges that maybe should be replaced or improved.
If the bridge has been inspected and it's fine, can we look at the maintenance records on the road and see when it's been?
Well, with that, I mean, I know we've talked about it before, it's basically, it's a section line, it's a trail, right? It's not like a gravel maintained road, so I would say the records probably don't exist. It's not a road that's regularly maintained,
Yeah,
so.
it's just, that is our only access to our pasture back there.
Will you guys maintain that road? Will you run the grader on it, like even just once a year?
Well, that's kind of a discussion we've been having lately, because we've, you know, with us falling so far behind on our regular roads, we've been avoiding doing that, but, I mean, at some point, it's probably unavoidable, it just, coming up with the right process that's fair to everybody, because if we start blading every section line, we'll never get it all done, so, do we need to come up with some kind of fee system, or, you know, I mean, where all the landowners are chipping in, I justify doing it versus not doing this person's, I don't know what the right answer is for it, but I mean, section lines are always a contentious issue. It just, you know, some of them are nicer than others, some guys maintain their own, some people don't do anything to them, some of them get built up eventually, and, you know, some got maintained over the years because of some agreement that nobody knew about except 2 people, and then they don't get maintained no more because the guys died or resigned, and so that's why, that road might have got maintained at some point, it doesn't now, and now you guys are probably wondering why, but our main reason is we just fell so far behind on the work that we absolutely have to do that something had to give, and it's been section lines, but, you know, maybe we develop a different process, or, you know, I've always just kind of advocated for improving it on your own, whether it's hiring somebody, or, you know, just because the county to try and bear that cost and responsibility is just a lot. That's,
There is a farm back there, I mean, there's no one living there right now, but, and there's electricity, so if that gets used as a farm, I mean, so if someone lives there, so you won't maintain that road then.
well, I think one of the responsibilities, just like we talked about before, is when it's a school bus route, something else that kind of changes the need for it, and then it usually changes the maintenance of it too, so. I mean, when no one's living out there and it's used just for ag purposes, it's hard to justify maintaining that over roads that are used for emergency routes and school bus routes and federal aid type roads, and so that's where it comes down to. I don't wanna say that section lines are totally off limits, but they're definitely not prioritized. That's
Well,
probably the
I
right
think even
answer.
just maintaining, the spring is probably the most needed time, just run through it. You know, like when we had that big flood where it washed out most of the road, you know, and we happened to run into the maintainer guy, he was just coming down, so then he maintained that road for us, you know. And, you know, hopefully we wouldn't have more than one flood, but, you know, I mean, if you wash the road out so bad, I have no idea, I have no idea how they would get into their land. I mean, I could probably go way around, maybe try to figure out how to cross that one creek, I don't know, maybe. And there is farmland there, so it's not like okay, we're just gonna abandon farmland, you know, we have to get back there, you know, so.
I don't know, it is, you know, it's the only access I know for these, that is your guys' only access, right? I mean, you know, it's not like they have another option to go around. I mean, that is the only access to the whole section up there, you know? And if something happened with me, I don't know if I could get around that thing. I think I'd have to go through your cropland, right? I mean, that's how it would have to be. I mean, I could probably get there, but I'd have to drive through his cropland. It ain't like he's got a road going around either, you know? So,
Would we be on the north side? No, you'd have to go all the way around
I'd have to
to
go
Dietrich's, through that way.
door,
That'd be the
I'd
only
have
way,
to come
because
up
the
and around.
creek's there.
No, but it's all crop, there's no road or nothing, I guess, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a special section line in a way, just because it is one access point for multiple landowners. It's not like, you know, I'm just, you know, trying to make the easiest pass I can.
Right, I understand where you're coming
Kind of
from.
the only
Right.
one, you know?
Well, and if there's a fire back there somewhere, I don't know, just let it burn, or even, Chem Electric, if they have to service the lines back there.
Well, that's why I wanna know what that bridge is legally weighted for too, because I know Derek Eastrom said he wouldn't drive his fire trucks across that bridge. Now, you can ask him that, because I think there was something back there, and he left the pumper truck out on the road, because he wasn't gonna drive,
The COP.
you know, that's an issue, guys. I mean, there's a lot of land up there, you know, there's a lot of guys that got their houses up in there too. If something breaks out up there, you know, you need to get fire equipment.
Well, the only thing, like I said before, with the bridge, it's been inspected. I mean, we can try and post something to put people's minds at ease on it if we can. I mean, because it probably looks worse than it actually is, but the inspection didn't, you know, because otherwise if the inspection would have came up, it would have got posted or even closed if it would have been dangerous, so. I mean, it's not like we just sent a blade guy out there and said, look at it, what do you think? I mean, it was done by a bridge inspector, so, I mean, the bridge at this point, use it as you see wish. I mean, however you feel it needs to be done, use it. I mean, if you're going over it overloaded, I could break through it. I don't know, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there, it's pun intended.
It's like probably having a sign there, like if it's 80,000 pounds or whatever, you know, if somebody drives across with 120,000, they break through, well then you know they're.
I don't know. I think we can check into the signage and at least try and figure out some way to do something, so like you said, you don't look like you come on some old rickety bridge and you're afraid and you find out it's perfectly healthy, it just doesn't look pretty, so. I'm sure there's something we can do or figure out something that would help that out, because I can totally see that. As far as the road maintenance, I mean, that's probably up for discussion with a lot of other roads, I mean. Because there's lots of section lines that dead end on places where there's one road in and one road out for multiple landowners, I mean,
Okay,
that's.
so if I fixed that road myself, would you supply me a culvert?
I mean, I think in situations like that, we probably work with people, because I mean, there are guys out there that maintain their own section lines, they go with a box blade and just keep them level, and,
What about gravel? Do you guys supply any gravel?
well, we haven't historically, I mean,
Cause this type of land washes.
right,
I mean,
it's sandy out there.
it's a gumbo-ish kind of land, and if we don't put something on it, it's just gonna, you know, every year we're gonna be disappearing. You know, there's a couple of hot spots that should use some gravel, so what I'm asking is if I do the work, if I go out, I maintain this road, I get it set up, would you guys give us a couple of gravel?
I mean, that's up for negotiation.
Would you give me the culvert to put across the bottom where the creek is, you know, so we can get a culvert in there? Not the bridge, there's another spot farther in that should have a culvert, and then, you know, that hill going up there should probably have some gravel.
Sure. Because I know there's a process that some people have gone through where we basically give them permission to improve the section line on their own. And we've done that with them too, and then just a matter of, you know, like a culvert or some gravel, if we want to do something like that, I mean, that's.
And then if I took it that far, would you guys run the maintainer on it then?
Well, see, that's always where it kind of goes, is, I mean, it's, I mean, we're not looking to add any road to the route, that's the reason why we're kind of doing that, is just, it's getting to be too much work out there, so. I mean, the option that I can see, honestly, the way to do it, we were really gonna do it is we'd go through and do like we had talked about before. We'd go through and build that up like an actual road. And you go through and, like we talked about before, doing a specials process where you assign some ownership to each landowner and have them pay a small portion to have the road get built, and the county puts a small portion up, whatever it is, and split the costs on it and build a road and then maintain an actual road, not just have like a prairie trail section line that's always up for discussion if it should get built or not. I mean, that's really the only way to do it. And the current way to do it, like we said, so that you don't have all the taxpayers bearing the burden of one area, is that, you know, you pay 10% and you pay, whoever's along the, there's a process. I'm doing the Cliff Notes version of it, but basically you go through and you design a road, you figure out how much it's gonna cost, you split some of it amongst the landowners, and the county splits it, and you're.
I mean, I think they would be up for that, I think that sounds very fair, why don't you guys come up with something?
Well, I think that's something that we've discussed, and there is a process in state law about doing it that way, and that's kind of where we wanna go, rather than, well, we're building this road up, and we like this guy, and this guy doesn't need it, that's not a fair process, but if you do a process where everybody pitches in, then it becomes part of the road route, it gets bladed just like the regular roads, or, seasonally, whatever you wanna call it, that's the process, that's the way to do it.
How long would it take you guys to come up with something that we can see?
I know we've never done it, so.
You're pretty good, man.
Well, the only thing I'll tell that's a good one. I know one part of the process is that it has to be engineered and it's gotta be built by a contractor. That's kind of
That's expensive.
well, that's the reason why you don't see this process used either, though. That's because the process is, so that way the county isn't going, yeah, it's $1 million, and you're all piling money in and it costs $100,000. The reason is you have a process that's tracked. You'd have to have an engineer design it, you'd have to put it out for bids. But that is the process. That's the legal process of building a road like that. If you're gonna do it that way. And that's the reason why it's, like, it wouldn't probably happen this year anymore.
Well, no.
I mean, could possibly be done next year, and depending on the process and how it works, over the winter, maybe we could work on it, if it's something you guys wanna proceed. Because I think you guys actually have to petition for it, if I'm not mistaken. I think the landowners would petition it, that would begin a process, and then we go through that process all the way to the end. It's pretty outlined, there's not a lot to reinvent, so. That's kind of the process we're going towards, instead of building new roads to places and picking and choosing who gets a new road. Find out the answer you want, if that's the one you got.
Well, these are the landowners, I guess they would have to say yea or nay on that. If that's something they wanna look into, I guess.
Yeah. I would have to follow through with the state's attorney, because like I said, I gave you the Cliff Notes version, and I'm sure there's more angles to it, but that's the bullet points. I don't think anybody here have a problem with some kind of situation like that, where, if it's cost shared by the landowners that are, especially the ones benefiting, that to me seems like the fairest way to do it, so. I'd be interested in moving forward with a proposal like that, so I'd say we can keep talking with the state's attorney and start down that rabbit hole and see where it goes.
Yeah, give us an idea, like, the cost to each landowner.
Right, well, that would all get, and knowing, just going out on my own here, an engineer who's done this process before has probably an outlined process, and what's the fair and equitable way of going, this person has X amount of acres, this one, and that would probably, and then there is a public hearing process involved with it, which mostly is gonna be you folks coming in, and you're gonna basically decide if it's fair what you're paying or not fair, and kind of negotiate over the dealings and move forward with it. That's kind of how I understand the process, so.
So more or less, it'd probably be just cheaper for these two to get together on their own and say, hey, let's go buy some gravel, and, if the farmer or somebody helps us just grade it, get something there.
Yeah, because
what you're selling is making it sound like.
well, there's a reason it hasn't been done a lot, because it's not easy, it's complicated, it's a process that nobody's familiar with, and it's complicated. But that would get you a built-up road with maintenance and everything else, and the maintenance side of it, I would imagine, would probably fall under like our regular
So is it a one-time payment on the landowner, is that every year they gotta pay extra, or?
Well, I have no idea. I'm not even gonna speculate, because I've never done it. I've just overread the process, because I've looked into it before on other similar roads like this. And that's where it's always kind of led down to, is either the commissioners build you a free road, and everybody else that doesn't get a free road gets mad, or you split up the costs amongst those that are benefiting, which is the most fair way, or you don't get a road at all. Those are basically your three options. But if you wanted regular maintenance and get it maintained, I think you'd have to go the route of actually building up a decent road, because otherwise, you would be better off getting a few landowners together and just leveling it yourselves and throwing a little gravel on it yourselves. If you could work that out, it'd probably be cheaper and maybe in your best interest, but it'd be cheaper and faster and all that. Probably, in lack of a better term, probably a better way to do it.
But you probably would supply me with like an old culvert, a decent one.
I mean, I think something like that, you could probably, yeah, because a culvert is beneficial to multiple landowners. I don't see a problem with probably helping out with a culvert. So,
Yeah.
anybody else got anything? I know I talked away on
When we do culverts, if it's a used one, we usually charge half a new.
That's when.
That's what we've
Guys
been
used to
doing.
give us an old culvert if it was for a road.
Nothing's for free anymore.
And if you want a brand new one, you pay the cost of it. That's what we've been doing now.
Yeah, but if it's for a section line, can't you at least give a guy a culvert?
Well, we haven't been giving culverts to people.
Huh?
We haven't been giving culverts to people, like just out the door. I mean,
A used one, but it's for a section, it's for a road.
no, half price.
It's not like it's going into my own personal property,
I
I'm
know.
gonna make a crossing. We are still paying taxes here, guys. I mean, what am I missing here?
Well, then we run into the thing when I don't have a used culvert. and then
Well, I
someone-
understand that, but a used culvert should just be, I mean, do you got used culverts right now?
Not really. Most ones we're tearing out are totally destroyed, like busted through it. We have a,
Even old concrete ones, it worked great.
the other guy called me the other day, his was like $400 for that half of that culvert. So, that was a big culvert.
Well, we wouldn't need that big. But I'm just saying, you know, I mean, it is a road, you know, it's not my personal property. I think that could at least work something out with a culvert. I mean,
Well, at least I don't think we have any used culverts right now anyway, probably. So probably be a new culvert if you got one right now anyway.
So we're on our own.
For section lines, yeah. It's kind of been the stance where we've been at, so trying to stay consistent with that, so. Everyone's different and they're all important in their own way, that's why it's hard, but at the same time, it's,
Well, you better make a call to Derek and tell him that bridge is good to go, because if I have a fire up there, I better be seeing fire trucks up there.
sure. Well, we could probably pass that report on to the fire department and stuff too, I suppose, might as well. I mean, any questions with that, I mean, it's available to anybody, so.
Yeah, I'll look into it a little bit more and then, like, I'm sure what happened was it just got speculated from the road grader operator that it wasn't safe. And then you know how rumors spread. So we'll look into it and then, yeah, we'll pass it on to the fire department up there.
Well, we'll talk to the DOT about seeing if there's any way to sign it that kind of will put this to fear, I mean, put this to bed here, I mean, I don't know what the.
Yeah, I mean,
There's gotta be something.
I'll look at the report and then if I have any questions, I'll talk to the DOT on it. We'll go from there.
Why are there steel rods running across it?
That was to hold the decking. I'm not sure, that was done way before my time.
I never drove across a bridge that's got steel rods running across it like that. There must have been some integral thing at some point where someone's like, God, you know, this is looking a little sketchy, maybe we should try to hold this thing together better.
And that might have been the alternative or the fix back in the day. You know, now they're, obviously bridges have been redesigned and now they're doing clipping and stuff like that for lateral supports and baffles inside of them and everything like that. So that might have been the fix at the time.
Yeah, well, like I said, just make sure that Derek at least knows, you know, fire chiefs know that, hey, this thing, we can drive across it. At least do that for me.
Yeah, we'll do.
Probably just send a copy of that inspection right up there to them so they have it.
He's gonna say you're nuts. I know Derek.
Yeah.
Like we said, we're not the ones going out and inspecting, these are certified bridge inspectors that are hired by the DOT, so what they do every day.
Right, well. I just don't, just make sure a sign gets up there, if it is 80,000 pounds, I want it.
Okay.
You know, so I know where I stand, if I do fall with my load that's 80,000 or whatever, you know. I'm sure it's gonna go by so much weight per axle, because it's a narrow bridge, you know, that's the problem. I mean, it's, you know, it's not, and I know these stack over guys, they don't like it. So we gotta just know exactly what we're dealing with here,
Yeah, like I said, they have that formula, the width of the bridge and.
right? We just need to know how much, it's basically gonna come down to how much weight per axle. You know,
Probably.
because you can only have so much weight on the bridge, so.
When they do those bridge formulas and weight formulas, it's just about every letter in the alphabet in that, so.
I suppose. Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Anybody else got anything to add? Okay,
You know,
thanks for coming in.
well, that's the problem.
We got an agenda item at 3 o'clock here, so.
Well, no,
Yeah, gravel on 82nd, okay. So, so 82nd and a half. Would be Frank and Sarah Vogel, Keith and Sarah Vogel, I don't say Frank, it's Keith and Sarah Vogel.
1804.
Yep. I know we had kind of talked about it before, but now that I've been working out there, because I did the footings and all that, that road is a profile built up road. I don't know about the easement situation on 82nd and a half, because it's a half-mile line, but it does line up perfectly with the other road, which goes to John Richter's and Jack Doctor's and everybody's. That's like the Clarence Lindeman Road, or whatever you want to call it. It's 82nd and a half. I believe the signage actually is 82nd and a half even, but it's,
Sign is, what is it, Gary?
or is it 82nd?
That's one of, excuse me, that's one of those roads that we've had that discussion about through 911 about, there's too many roads out in that area within 2 miles that are Little Beaver Creek Trail, Little Beaver Roundabout. I mean, I would love to see that designated as 82nd and a half, all the way to the water's edge. You know, to simplify that, because with, even the people that live there can't tell you where those roads are at because it's so confusing. You have 4 roads that include the name Beaver Bay or Beaver Bay Trail. It's confusing as all get out, so, yeah.
That's what's labeled Little Beaver Drive, right?
Yeah, I've got a list of them down in my office,
This,
but
my maps here come from DOT, they have it labeled as 87.5, but 911 address and the sign up there is Little Beaver Drive.
correct, yeah.
Going west.
Yeah.
Going west, it's Little Beaver Drive, going east, it's
And there's no 87.5 there's a sign right last one. But it should all be.
It's a quarter line going east there.
So anyway, that road, in my opinion, looks like that was a road that was bladed and maintained at one point, because there was, I think there's 3 farmsteads back there. And over time, they got abandoned, and the road just got abandoned. Because if you actually go east until it goes to 6th, that is absolutely, that's got back slopes and a ditch and everything. And the reason why I bring it up is now Keith and Sarah are right about where Josh is pointing, and they're building a house. And they actually had a neighbor come and actually blade the shoulders up, and they're grappling it themselves. But they want it to be bladed, they want snow removal, and they want it to be maintained like a regular road. And I originally told them no, because like we had said, we're not on the section lines, but this looks like an abandoned road, like we just quit blading it over the years, because someone didn't live back there no more, but it's built up, there's no road to build, and they're actually graveling it themselves, which when you talk about specials, like kickstarting the cost, they're doing that. And so and then it's also gonna be a school bus route, that currently isn't because they're not living out there, but And it's not like some emergency where we gotta go out there and start working on it now, but I think it needs to probably be added to our routes, cause it's just a road that we just quit blading. And as soon as they started blading it around a little bit, they had John Richter come out with a blade, and he was kind of blading it around himself. I mean, there's gravel underneath that grass and stuff. I mean, it's a township type road. It's not, you know, perfectly uniformly built like a regular modern type road, but it's, you know, it's probably 14, 16 foot wide on top. I mean, it's, so, I guess that's the reason I brought it, because they had asked me to bring it up, and like I said originally, and I think you looked at it one time too, and when it wasn't touched, it looked pretty crude, but after it got bladed up a little, you can go out there and you can see a defined ditch profile. I mean, there's roads out there we're blading that probably would be the same type road, it's just we kept blading those and we didn't keep blading these for whatever reason, obviously, because nobody's living out there.
So it's pretty close to where they're blading out.
Right, well, they're blading right across the highway.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's some out of the way stretch, but basically what's happened is over the years, nobody lives back there. And there's multiple farmers, there's multiple landowners, I mean, there's plenty of people using it too. Because when I was working back there, there's people driving back there quite a bit. And of course, there's Keith and Sarah who are, 6th Avenue especially, they've gravelled themselves and they've had it fixed up. So they've kind of put that initial cost that we ask most people to do when they start doing these things, but I think it should get added to our maintenance route. That's my opinion. You guys wanna drive out, I mean, it's not like we gotta make some decision today, but it just.
I know where that is.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, one of the issues when I talked to the landowner there was also easement. Is there an easement there? Because that is a quarter line where the property owners own up to the middle of the road. And without an easement there, is that gonna be a problem?
Right, well, that's, like I said, it isn't something we need to just today, we need to start blading it today. But I think especially if there's a recorded easement down there too, which I'd be surprised if there isn't, because it's a built-up road. I mean, there's no arguing that. It's not just a 2-track trail that someone built a house on back there. It was built for multiple properties, because I think there was one on the east side of where Keith was, there's a little farmyard, and then I think to the north there was.
What, to the north?
Right, so I mean, there was 2 to 3 farms back there at one point, so.
So are you talking about maintaining 82nd and a half and 6th Avenue now?
I would say at least just kind of like what we've done in some of these other areas, where at least to their approach and maintain a school bus route for them, because they got 2 kids that are junior high age and elementary age, they're gonna be on the school bus route for many years, so.
Obviously, 6th Avenue will have easements because it's a section.
For sure, I don't think you will find easements on it, because there is no need. 82nd and a half there might be just because it's not a section line, it's be a quarter line, but.
So then if there isn't, the process is to talk to the landowners and get that easement from them?
That would be another opportunity if we're gonna proceed with it.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it for the sake of discussion because I educated myself by driving out there. After going out and driving that road, you can't deny that that road was built by either the township a long time ago or the county. And now that it's a school bus route, I don't see no reason why we couldn't maintain it now, so. And I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't an easement, because since there's a road literally across the highway from it, it's directly in line with it, I'm guessing that was a part of the whole process at some point. But I think more research needs to get done to make sure there is an easement there, but I just wanted your guys' input too on it, Roy, because I know section lines are contentious discussion, but this is definitely.
Yeah, I'd be forward for that.
Okay.
I'll look in the index book to see if
For the 6th Avenue, it goes south, how far is that south? Before it hit there, about a mile.
Yeah, and that one doesn't seem to be used too much, so I think we probably just let that go unless it becomes an issue. But it's a lot cruder going south. You can tell they made more of an effort to go north with it. When I was looking at it and John Richter was out there, I asked him, I'm like, what's your opinion? He goes, well, this is definitely a built up road. I said, what about going south? And he goes, well, just look at it. And the weeds were high, but it was pretty flat there, so. But I'd say check into it, Josh, if you can find it. I think if you went north half a mile at least and just got it so that their bus route is maintained currently, I don't see a problem with that.
Wherever they can turn around.
I would also add too, though, in the future, if the county goes forward with that, changing that from 1804 going west to be consistent, maybe consider looking at changing that road name to 82nd and a half to be consistent, east and west side of Highway 83, and which also eliminates one of the Beaver Bay
Right.
Little Beaver, little, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
it does get confusing, you get
It's
out there.
very
it's like,
confusing.
yeah,
For
you
first
think of
responders,
what-
ambulance, even the people that live there, it's very confusing with so many little beaver
Yeah.
roads out there. And that's rule number one, is never have roads with similar sounding names, especially in close proximity, because it's so confusing. Right now, if that change was to occur, it's only gonna affect two property owners, Richter's and Doctor's. That would require a change of address when that time comes.
Sure.
And I would reach out to those property owners personally and talk to them too about it.
sure. Okay,
Well,
well,
actually, there's that other person right east of Doctor at Red House. But I think they just, they don't live in there, I think they just.
Right, yeah, there's some cabins there, but that's just a seasonal cabin there.
Yeah,
so,
that's
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the old Clarence Lindemann cabin, yeah.
well, Skylar, I'd say just for the moment, just kind of keep it in your mind, because I'm guessing that is either Sean or Dave Allison's route.
That'd be Sean's.
Okay. Let's just be aware of it, I guess, anyway. We'll look in and make sure we have some easements on there before we do anything.
So probably by the next commission meeting, we'll probably have.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's like an urgent rush, it's a drivable road now,
Yeah.
but this winter is where they're probably gonna need the help, because to maintain that road, especially with stuff going on, so. Okay? You ladies in the back have anything specific, or? Okay. Are you here for the 3 o'clock for the historic? Okay. Skylar, we have a half hour, fill it with all kinds of.
I got a couple questions.
Sure.
I was updating on the water pumping project, how it's coming.
Still flowing.
Saw it this morning, are we able to see the culverts yet? I didn't stop and look.
Not yet. We'd actually discussed this morning. Dave Ellison's been going and monitoring that every morning, refueling and stuff like that. So we actually discussed that this morning, what our next process is, so we're probably to the point now where we're gonna have to get in there and hopefully we can walk in there and at least find the culverts and see if we can at least pinpoint them a little bit better, because we were 2.5 feet difference from north side to south side. So right now, we've pretty much, consensus is we've dropped it 5 feet.
Yeah.
I haven't reshot it to know for sure yet, but if we're 5 feet, obviously it's not backflowing on us. 'Cause our first process was to at least equalize it, and if we quit gaining on it, then we knew it was backflowing against it. It would probably either the plug come out, or the riprap pad, or whatever it may be, opened up for the time being. So now that we're continuing to go lower, obviously we have it's starting to look like a little bit bigger of a problem than we were hoping, so now it's just.
Well, I noticed it this morning. Well,
We're gonna keep going as long, but we're running out of piping, and we're gonna have to reevaluate the situation if we wanna spend more time.
So are we on a time limit on this pump? As to how long we can use it, or?
As of now, no.
We're not, okay, because I know it's costing us money every day, I get that, but it's really taking that lake down, I mean, it's down. And I said, you can see all the rocks area along the road, so I'm assuming at some point here, we should be able to see those culverts and try to get that opened up.
Yep, so that's our next process, to see if we can find the culverts, and then, at least if we can find the tops of them, then we at least know exactly where they're at, and we're gonna mark them that way.
Do you got any kind of a plan when you do get done with that culvert? I mean, obviously it depends on
Open
what's
grade,
blocking it, but I'm just saying, like, are you already kind of in your mind going, like, if it's rocks, I'm gonna do this? or
If it's rocks, we're just gonna move them, you know, we'll try to
If
get
it's
down.
just rocks over the end, you're saying?
Yeah, if it's rock, if it's smashed, then, and it's gotta be a culvert replacement, then we're into a way bigger project.
And it's metal culverts, right?
Yeah, they're metal.
Are they metal? Like, I've never seen them, the
They're metal culverts.
old plans called for concrete with an option of metal,
The
so.
ones that are metal, I've seen them in the dry
Okay,
areas,
so
they're
they
metal.
are, I've never seen them, I guess.
Yeah, so
Pay
that-
attention,
well-
I'd rather do it.
Florian said they're concrete. So,
I may be wrong. I believe they're
Well, now
metal.
that confidence is slipping down here.
so and that's the thing
I'm
with,
say they're metal.
Well,
we're gonna have to try to find them, and then, you know, if they're just smashed shut, and we can just open them somehow, with some kind of tool, or put a chain on them, or whatever we need to do to get them open.
Like the west one should be more exposed by now than then there's 2 in the center. There's 3.
Yeah, there's 3
The
culverts.
rest one should be more exposed, shouldn't it?
Well, we're hoping.
I mean, that water has dropped like one, so. I may even get down there next 2 days if I get some free time. I wanna kind of look at that too, but it's done a fantastic job. And I don't think that's done diddly to raising the other side at all.
No.
You lose an officer?
No. So-
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Chairman, just get 5 minutes of your attention. I'll go over just briefly on this, and there's something else I want to bring up quickly.
Okay.
If you got time. So, yeah, what I handed you there is our 2021 annual report. So that's of December 31st of last year, in a sense. So just kind of take a look at it. If you have any questions through this thing, feel free to reach out to me at any time. One of the other things I wanted to discuss is we have those ARPA funds available to the county. We put together a working group, which myself, Craig Kitzman, the maintenance guy, Keisha Stuckel, Michelle Mossett, and Commissioner Weigel are part of it. We did have a meeting on August 22nd, just kind of a discussion of where we want to go with some of this funding for the courthouse, basically. Mr. Weigel was not there, he was out of town at the time. But one of the things we discussed was, again, improvements to the auditorium, specifically the bathrooms, the men's and the women's bathroom down in the basement and the auditorium area. Everybody agrees over the last 10 years they need to be renovated. They're in horrible shape. And as part of the working committee, I've been asked to come forward and see if we could get some money earmarked for that specific project, those bathrooms, to go forward. That is to reach out to contractors, get some estimates. Craig is estimating right around that $35,000 for the 2 bathrooms, the men's and the women's combined. And then maybe another $15,000 where the entryway is just outside the Legion meeting room. They got that dark tile there. Maybe $15,000 for that, for the removal of those tiles and updating that floor and so forth. But it's gonna take some time for Craig to find a contractor, get some bids for the winter months. But if we don't start that now, trying to get a contractor like even next year is gonna be tough. It's just everybody's booked out here. So what I'm seeking is to get some ear money marked for that bathroom project, to go forward on that anyway, to have Craig go forward, get some estimates and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we agreed we were gonna try and utilize a lot of that ARPA funding for courthouse improvements, so
Right.
I would say going forward with some estimates is in that process, so. I don't know if we specifically earmarked anything. I know the only conversation we had before was the Strasburg Lagoon. It sounds like they don't need us anymore, so.
Can't contribute even if we want to.
Yeah, I think last month or the month before, I think you earmarked $50,000 for the shop in Hazelton, correct? Renovation of the Hazelton shop? Out of those ARPA funds?
I was gonna say, yeah, 30.
I think it was 30.
30? Okay, okay, yeah.
And then with the lit project here, that one way down now, so.
Okay. So,
Okay. Well, I would say move forward with stuff like that.
okay. And again, we're just talking about the 2 bathrooms downstairs.
Right, but I would say get estimates on it.
Yeah, and it'd be nice, like I said, get some estimates, go forward on it, and then you can bring those estimates to the county then at a later date. I think the big thing is finding a contractor that can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. I'll let you know.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Skylar, next question. How do we come with this, digging this pit for Linton out here? County was gonna dig a hole, right?
Yeah, it's still on our list.
I'm just asking, man. I didn't know if maybe something changed, because I drive by and.
No, it's still on our, but it's low on our priority list right now.
Okay.
So,
Just was wondering if that's still in the fire.
we hope to get it done before winter time.
Okay, well, like I said, I noticed those things and I was like, I gotta ask him.
There's an active pit up there right now, though, right?
Right.
A little bit,
yeah,
They
yeah.
got a
I mean, just
few,
it came-
yeah, and actually I talked with Virgil with the city, they were wondering the same thing. Cause someone called and had a couple of houses and I was like, well, there's still room in there.
Okay. Alright.
Still on our active list. It's a big county.
I didn't realize it was that big.
Oh, I know it's that big, but only 10 people in that department.
So are you running that pump 24/7?
24/7.
You are, because
Round
when
the
I go
clock.
by at 6 in the morning and it's pumping water, I'm like, God, I wonder if Dave's come out that early or it's running all the time.
I don't know, it just goes out and,
Any issues?
not really. just-
No.
I think they had trouble with the pump, right? Said there was trouble with the pump.
Oh, we, wrecked a rubber collar that connects the pump and stuff like that, but, Burley County had an extra one on hand, so. Was able to pick it up, get it going, it was only down one day for that.
So what's,
What are they charging us for?
It's 250, I know, so
No, actually, they didn't say anything about charging us.
Oh, so it's free.
Well,
You don't see it on
I-
day.
I wouldn't say
yeah,
free.
I'm sure they appreciate their pump, I know that.
Yeah.
Well, it has to go with that, we have a shared use agreement with, Burley County, with equipment and stuff, to do emergency management.
Oh, okay.
So,
If you've never seen it, this pump, that pumps water that's on a rail
That's good.
and quiet. You don't ever hear, if you got your windows up, you don't hear it going.
well, they put a muffler on it.
Yeah,
When they bought it, and they pumped during the flood, they didn't have a muffler on it.
That thing works really good.
So is the work down on the 98th Street done?
Yep, 98th Street's 100% done.
How much slow is the gravel that you have
Oh, I haven't even figured that out,
on?
I mean, it was some with the gravel,
And you guys are graveling and other, like you guys were graveling kind of northeast of Lincoln here the other day, so were you just
Yeah, we're still
taking turns
working.
with each blade operator kind of, or?
but, yep, now, in the Al's area, we're gonna finish up there, and then we're moving down to Cody's area, and we're gonna start graveling down in Cody's area.
Okay.
Cause that was that's the next spot that got neglected a lot, so there's a lot of gravel that needs to happen down there. But we're gonna have to jump back, we're hoping not to put any gravel on 8th Avenue that we're rebuilding now. We might have to put a little on there, just to top dress it a little bit. Other than that, our next project will be the water treatment plant road.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So that's, we've been in talk with Scott out there, right, Scott?
No, there's Doug, there's.
Doug, sorry, it's Doug.
Doug Smith.
I was gonna say they got a plant worker out there too, those.
Yeah, no, so Doug, we've been in contact with Doug and he knows we're coming and
Okay.
just-
Yeah, he did call me the other day too,
yeah,
and was just wondering why, and I knew it was coming up.
we're in that process, so.
Okay. Then, of course, as soon as you get the culverts and everything,
Yep, and Kels, so that puts a few things, we're gonna have to pull a few guys off
Well, you'll
to.
have to do, I mean, because Kellen's right now, you got the weather, you got the.
Oh, absolutely, it's the
If you
cold,
don't
it's
do
the
it now,
best
we're-
time to do it, so
Yeah.
as soon as,
Absolutely.
Well, you
as
gotta
soon as
make
I'm
that-
done here, I'm hoping to still be able to order the culverts today and get them.
So you gonna have enough blade operators for the winter? You gonna be all right?
Well, we made it through last year with this many.
Cause it may be enough rough winter. Yeah, I hope not.
So it's, I mean,
I mean, so
yeah,
you're satisfied with the amount of workers you have then, or do you, I mean, is that something we gotta look at for next year, or what?
well, I thought we were already in that talk of,
Yeah, and that's why I was wondering, we never really,
we were already in the talk of, well, I asked for one operator and then it got, and that was the meeting that John had attended because I was at that special meeting. Then there was talk about 2 operators. So that's, I mean, yes, we are short of help.
yeah, that's what I figured.
So that's up to you guys if you wanna earmark for 2 other operators. So that's, I would take 2 more operators.
You
Yes.
have enough work for
Well, yes, because we're pulling blade operators to do trucking, we're
Yeah,
pulling blade
that's-
operators to do
them.
culverts, we're pulling blade operators to do this stuff, so. I mean, that's essentially our workforce is blade operators with 1 truck driver. Or 1 do-it-all guy that, isn't assigned a blade runner. So, and you hire 2 more blade operators, that will cut down the time on maintenance on the roads, so we can move on. I think Cody Renner's got the worst route out there, it's the furthest away from Strasburg, it's in the southwest part of the county, I mean, he's got a big route, it takes a long time to get that covered. So,
Yeah, getting some gravel down on Cody's road would be a good idea.
yeah, and
I
that's,
know it's pretty crude down there in that south of Westfield area, especially towards the state line, it's,
yep, and that's just, that was a part of the county that kinda got neglected a little bit, just 'cause it's the furthest away from any of our gravel pits.
well, that's kind of what's been, I mean, even like when we went west of Hazelton and all that, even where Al's graveling now, it's, those are the farthest areas, but at some point you just have to do them, you know, it's,
Be nice if we could get some gravel down there, in that south part of the county there, where the other county pile, or South Dakota's got the pile down there.
Yeah, that's
we
in
need
Cody's.
stockpile gravel.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
They
looking
took
for
the gravel
gravel?
so far, yeah.
Yep. Yep, well, we can keep looking into it, but as far as I know, we've eaten up our gravel crushing budget for the next 2 years.
Well, the question I have too is there any way, I wonder if you guys can purchase any out of like that Harriet area, I mean, they got that mountain of gravel down there, I don't know what contractor's putting that up there, it's,
We shape ours.
talking about like southwest of
Well,
Harriet
shape
there.
those places.
So they got, that's big time activity down there, and those
Yeah,
are,
they got gravel there, okay.
that's what I was wondering, maybe if you guys could purchase some out of that pit or something like that over time, or, you know. I don't really know who to talk to, or anybody, somebody knows somebody down there.
I know Steve Shape ours, but that's Shape
It's
ours.
Shape Hours Pit,
Yeah.
and this is where, by Mountain?
It's right by Harry's.
Yeah,
it's
southwest of Harriet.
Right west.
This is miles southwest.
Right.
Yeah, it's right out of town almost, but just,
Just a mile west, when you break in.
Right.
There's
well,
a,
then if you go further out, all the way out to,
That's all.
like that midlight or something, it's like 3 or 4 miles out, but I mean, it's that big of a system, I mean, you can see it from miles away, I mean, it's, they're developing a huge piece out there, it's almost be gravel, just like crazy, maybe that would be a nice, cause, I mean, yeah, you're 8 miles south of the state line, but you're not gonna be any closer coming from any of our other
I
pits.
can ask Tom.
I wonder if there's a way that I could,
See if he's got it tied up out there.
I
I'm
was
just curious.
contacted by Frank Fettig from Logan. Yeah. I don't know the man, but he called me twice. I hear you guys are looking for gravel, I have gravel for you guys.
Chuck that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chuck.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
like,
sorry,
like
Chuck.
Chuck and it's like the Fettig brothers.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh yeah, no, they got a big quarry
yeah,
there, down by Burnstead, right?
yeah, it's somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah.
And he called me and I didn't know whether we wanted to cross into other counties to get gravel. I mean, being that, you know,
Well, right, I
They don't
agree to a
access
point,
either.
but yeah, I mean, when your other pit's 40 miles away and that one might be 25, I don't know if the county line is that big of an issue, then, you know, I mean, it's,
See, like this one for Cody way down south, where are you gonna get that?
well, it depends on where it's gonna go, is, it's either gonna come out of the Vandervoort pit or the Knoll pit. So we just gotta find that fine line of mileage and,
That's quite a drive. so.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be quite a drive from either pit. And it also depends on what's on the road, if it's really sandy, you don't wanna add more sandy gravel, we might have to just bring in some low gravel and truck it a little further than expected, but I'd rather spend the money now and truck it a little further than spend the money trying to maintain that sandy gravel over the next couple of years.
well, it's kinda like 82nd and 84th there, I mean, you'd be better off hauling from like the Massville pit out of, you know, from Calvin's deal there, cause it's better gravel. I mean, it might be 10 miles further than
Yeah.
Cattail or something, but if you're gonna be hauling sand on sand, you're not doing any good anyway, so.
Yeah, and that's what we've been kinda doing, like,
Sure.
up there, we hauled, like, up by your area, Al's area this spring, we hauled some sandier gravel on top of that clay, and
And that works well, cause
Yeah.
that's already pretty clayed up, you
Yeah.
know, around my area, that stuff blends nice with that.
yeah,
That
so
made a nice piece of road.
if it's sandy, we're gonna try to add more clay gravel, if it's clay, we're gonna try to add more sandy
Sure.
gravel, so.
So what about the deal by, that Geffro over there?
So, yeah, Doug Geffro, what is that, 85th Street? At 85th off of 19th? Yeah, we actually got the 404 permit for that, so, yeah, actually, a couple days after I talked to you, it showed up, so. It's on our list to get rip-wrapped yet this fall.
yeah, that's the one I had called about earlier too. The top dress of the gravel, cause it's so darn rough, but it washed the sides pretty bad too.
Yeah, so, depending on, that's pretty close to the Mastell pit, that's only like,
Yeah.
what is that, mile?
Yeah.
So we might just top dress it with some gravel to get them through the time to do harvest and then rip wrap it later this fall when all our other projects start.
Yeah, they
Hopefully winding down, cause
go
it's,
through with their dual, wheels and their combines and the duals are running free,
yeah,
because only the single ones are on the road. That's narrow, that's ugly.
and then actually on, what is that, 85th that comes by is, nope, it'd be,
Yeah, it's 85.
no,
85th.
I'm looking at a different one, 89, 86? Comes by that cemetery, just goes
86, yeah.
that 86.
Mhm.
The creek bank is actually starting to wash towards our road.
What are you telling there, St. Ace?
Right
Yeah,
there, by Larry Lyers now.
St. Aloysius, yep.
Yeah.
So just west of that,
Yep.
the creek's actually starting to wash in.
Yep.
It is not a major concern right now, like the road's safe to travel and everything
Yeah.
like that. It's just, if we keep leaving it, it's just gonna, next year, if we get a big runoff, it's gonna eat a little bit more. So it's in our, I talked to Mike with Wold Engineering and we don't need a permit or anything because we're not changing the water line. We just wanna build back that curve, that bank pretty much and then rip wrap it. So we have some protection because it's on a curve there. The water comes around the curve and
Yeah.
gets full head of steam, so that's in our plan of attack, but it's not a high priority right now because the road is still safe. It's quite a ways, it's just we need to do that preventative maintenance or else. Could be one good spring or, could be next year, could be 3 years from now.
Right, you can't lose 86 now.
Yeah, so that's just, it's on our list of things to get done, but. There, got just a few other quick things here.
Dang, well, man, that's
So,
fast.
6th Avenue that comes by the
Nice job,
shop, by the cemetery and the golf course and everything
Yep.
like that. There's 2 spots in there that were really alligating out this spring. We dug them out and put millions in there. One kinda held pretty good. One, I think we got some other issues going on, like some people are stopping in there. It's just loose, it's not holding up as tight as it should be.
People what?
Well, I think they're stopping and spinning their tires in there. It goes from being semi-smooth to rough in one day. So. Not saying that's exactly what's happening. So that is a road that's gonna is supposed to be milled and overlaid.
Mm-hmm.
Do we wanna fix it better this year? If we fix it by paving it, by bringing in actually asphalt and patching it.
Because you're planning on doing it next year, right?
Well, that's up to you guys, if you guys allocate it, that's on your guys' maintenance plan.
Yeah, if we do it next year, I'd say no, but if we're not gonna do it next year, then I'd say yeah.
So it'll cost us $7,030 to patch
To
Yeah,
patch.
that's fine.
That's 3 inches thick.
Done.
So that's, or we can dig that out, put gravel in it, hopefully they hold better.
Because we were looking at doing the Strawberry Road too.
Right.
Yeah, I think we should just plan on doing next year, pave that.
I think that is one, that's on next year's list.
Yeah.
So can you dig the notch on the ones in there?
We tried it a second time,
We did,
just didn't really hold. One's holding pretty decent, one's not holding very good, so.
We did the whole thing.
We had pretty good success with the Mastel, or the wool bomb gravel when we did Braddock, you know, that sat open for almost a month. It didn't really, yeah, you get the loose stuff, but that stuff packed in there pretty good, so. Guess those are our options, either we, because I figured it was on the list to get redone next year. Do we wanna stick $7,000 into it?
I know, I'd say safe to say.
This is on 6th Avenue by the shop, by the golf course, there's 2 patches in there. $7,030 to pave it.
You need to just patch.
Just patch. Put pavement patches over.
And I think it's on our list for next year's
Right.
overlayment.
Yeah, I know that overlay process was what? Well, we had like $500,000 to do like a mile and a half or something like that, or wasn't even more than that. It was like made up of like 4 little patches and it was like $500,000 or whatever that.
Yeah, that was that one and Strasburg
Yeah.
mile and,
I guess the question I have is I don't know if I really see a problem with spending a few $1,000s to patch them holes, cause it's horrible on that at least in the meantime, I mean, when you overlay it, then you got something decent to overlay on anyway.
Well, the only thing is that, depends when you're gonna overlay. If you're gonna overlay next year, then don't pay to patch it, but if you're gonna wait a year or two, yeah.
Well, because the trouble I have is you let a winter go through there and it fills full of snow, and then it fills full of ice, and then it melts and it's getting underneath it, and now your patch is getting, is your base gonna be troubled with your overlay? I mean, I think we should patch it. It's a horrible hole that goes. That's what I think. I think that needs to get patched and fixed. That's terrible.
Going right past the gate. You're going from the shop, just right past the gates from.
No, it's closer to the center.
That'd be like on the north side of my little.
Oh, the one further up.
Yeah.
That's where it's terrible. I mean, people
No,
go
right
up there.
there and another one to the north, right?
They're close to each other, they're just
Yeah.
outside just a little.
But I mean, you got people going out there for funerals, you got golf course action, you got the newer homes out there and everybody, and they're driving through that ugly hole. I feel like we should get it patched before winter, but that's my thought. So that was an estimate you got?
Yep, that was from
Cause I know
Darren,
like, was that from?
Darren from Quality Asphalt, the same
Okay.
guy that did our Braddock paving job.
'Cause
Pretty
I
much
was-
the only one that's willing to get back to us.
Well, it sounds like, because the reason why I say that is because Strasburg had a couple patches too. I was talking to the city guy, Frankie, and then I was like, man, we should make sure we're contacting the same guy and try and swallow some mileage out of this thing, and, make it a little cheaper, so I'm thinking that was the same guy. I don't know.
That's for you guys to vote on or discuss.
I think we should patch it for winter, especially if you got a crew coming down, because they're gonna do some work in Strasburg, because that's a terrible hole. There's no guarantee we're gonna overlay next year either. I mean, and if you do overlay, it's not like you're out the one, you just made a nice base to overlay anyway, so I think leaving that hole there with that crushed asphalt is terrible.
Where if you go,
The thing is the winter doesn't reduce the traffic on that road. I mean, it does to a point, because you probably don't have the funerals and the golf course action, but you still got the daily drivers, people
Well,
that.
the funeral, they really don't go, cemetery's more to the north.
Right, there's just people that drive past it, is my point. I mean, there's traffic out there for certain things that just.
Yes. It's not the worst thing we've ever done.
Well, I think it looks bad that we don't patch that.
If they're coming to do, if he's coming to do another job somewhere else, it's.
Right, I think they're gonna be in Strasburg, I can only.
Yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, if you gotta come down, then I can see, but just bring it down for that, I wouldn't do it, but yeah.
I think if we just bring them down on our own, it'd be $7,030.
If there's something else,
So it may be a little less if he's in conjunction with Strasburg. I mean, there might be a mileage difference or something.
Could be,
Well,
maybe,
I guess,
but it'd be,
I guess either
if
way,
we
that's-
decide on it, I'd keep in the back.
I
of
would
my
say
head,
that.
it'd be
You couldn't fix it with
$7,030.
a cold patching now?
We did already.
We
Well,
put the
put
millions
the
in there.
Millions in there, and they found it out about a month. It fixed it nice right away, but it didn't last.
Yeah,
It's a terrible, ugly hole that looks ugly. So,
your best option's the paving.
what do you think, Dave?
Sounds good to me.
I'm good with it.
Well, I think let's just do it in a formal motion if we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
So. Entertain a motion to do the patching by the county shop and the golf course there, the asphalt.
I'll make it.
Motion by Commissioner Weichel to accept the bid from Quality Asphalt, attach the asphalt. Is there a second? Second by
This is
Commissioner Holmes.
to repair just the one, right?
So there's two there.
You're gonna do
There's
both?
the two.
Yeah,
Okay,
there.
okay.
yeah,
We're doing both, right?
Yep.
they're not,
Okay.
yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, well, we have a motion and a second on there, is there any more discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. That
Guys,
means
who's
good.
doing the patching again?
Quality Asphalt. Quality Asphalt Repair Incorporated, yep, out of Bismarck. Do you need their address?
No, I'll find it.
I have it right here if you want it.
I just want it for the minutes.
Okay, and then the next thing, this is, John handed me this, come from Marlis. Results for the inspection at Language Bay. Talked to Sam, he's going to spray the weeds, remove the wasp nests. He said the water levels dropped about 3 feet thanks to dock to be pulled out after Labor Day weekend. And regarding the door latch on the vault toilet, Sam stated that the road department fixed this before, so he thinks they should do it again. I know we talked about at the last meeting that you had an inspection out there. So just wanna know how you guys wanna proceed with this.
I'd say Michael's pretty handy, why don't you just send him down there, like an afternoon or something, if you got a little gap in time or something.
And I guess as far as pulling the dock,
Well, we always pulled the dock anyway.
but I mean, I'm just saying anytime that it fits their schedule, if there's, you know.
Right.
Pull the dock out.
Okay.
And we're not gonna touch that other handicap accessible,
If that thing's been there that long, and all
but
those
it's-
issues, I don't see, no, I
but
don't,
we can't just remove it.
well,
He told me that, you can't just take it away. You have to fill out an application to be approved, but you guys, you can't walk on it, you break through. It's horrible, and I'm like,
we're gonna have to look into that, too, and figure it out.
shot, but you can't.
yeah, it's shot, you don't dare walk on it.
Isn't it closed off already, or like chained
No,
off or something?
No,
Maybe we should do
kids are
that.
probably bouncing around on that or whatever.
Maybe we should just chain, maybe we should probably sign it or chain it off or something at least.
That's what I'd said, maybe we should put police, you know, tape it
Well,
on
we
or
should probably
something.
do something on there, cause
Yeah.
I mean, if they're not gonna let us tear it out, and we don't wanna fix it, what are we gonna do?
Well, actually get hooked on, pull it out.
Accidentally get hooked on it, is that what you're saying?
Pretty far over to the other area.
Yeah, it's kind of out there.
Can we sign it closed?
That's it,
I
reliability
think we
purposes,
could.
I'd do it, make them,
I
have us
can't.
not
I
do it,
didn't
because
ask
I don't
them.
want somebody tripping and falling
Yeah.
on it or something. I'd say you better sign it off or chain it off or something.
Down there, just go on and jump once and see what happens.
Yeah, check it out.
Go right through.
I haven't been down there, I won't be down there.
Dangerous
for a
over
while.
there.
No, I'm just saying it's rotted out.
Okay, so we're gonna send Michael down there to fix the door latch,
Yeah.
and we'll pull the bolt dock whenever we have.
Chance, yeah.
And I haven't heard anything from the Game and Fish or the Corps again on that low water crossing, I don't know if they just, you know, we had that high water event for a while where the water was decent, it's like they just forgot about us or something, so I don't know. We'll have to get back in touch with them and try, if the water's gonna be low next year, then they should maybe consider doing that. I heard nothing like that. Well, Clarence, you're here, podium is yours.
I gotta go up there?
Yep.
Joy.
Is that it for the road department?
Well, yeah, I mean, unless you wanna go afterwards, but we got an agenda item here too, that's why we have to take it, so.
I don't think I have really much
If
anything
you don't really
else.
have anything else, then you can go. If you
Other questions?
We're good.
wanna try and get them culverts.
I have a few questions. No, just kidding.
Oh, I mean, I can stay if you have some.
I was hoping the county could build me a new road.
No, no, that goes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Skylar.
Thanks, Skylar, yep, appreciate it.
All right, Clarence, the floor is yours.
In January of 2018, I moved back to Linton from Fargo. When I moved back, I was already the vice president of the Tri-County Tourism Alliance with my involvement with Dr. Tom Eastern and the Welk Homestead and the work we had done there. They asked me to be the president of the Friends of the Welk Homestead, which I agreed to. And so it seemed only natural in January when I moved home to get involved with the Emmons County Historical Society. I went to my first meeting in January of 2018 to the Emmons County Historical Society, and it just so happened to be when they held their elections, and they elected me as the secretary treasurer. I took that position over, but was denied access to any of the records by Eileen Morris, who was at the time the secretary treasurer that I replaced. And for January, February, March, and a good chunk of April, she refused to hand the books over to me so that I could do the duties that I was elected to do. But just prior to the next meeting, by their bylaws, they have quarterly meetings 4 times a year. January is the election meeting. And the election is for a 2-year term. So I was elected for a 2-year term, along with a woman by the name of Betty, can't remember her last name, but she was not even there when she got elected. So there, from the very beginning, there were 5 people at that meeting.
there's about 100 members. And from the very beginnings, they weren't operating under the Robert's Rules of Order. They didn't have a copy of their bylaws, and they just kind of did what they did. And so I had questions that I raised right away in that very first meeting about the way the meetings were conducted. And in the April meeting, the woman that had been elected president had resigned from the position before she even took over the position, and so Mary Ann Geffro assumed the role of president once again. She had been president, and then she was elected vice president. So the president left, so then she stepped into the president's role. And after a very short time of my being the secretary treasurer, I resigned because they weren't producing minutes for their meetings. They weren't producing financial statements. They weren't doing any of the things that the bylaws that they were governed by required them to do. And so from that period, from March of 2018 until just recently, I kind of took my hands off and just tried to take care of things as best I could from a distance. But in May of this year, I went to their meeting. Now, I'm a lifetime member of the Emmons County Historical Society, and I routinely get newsletters from them. I believe that Jackie Wald, is that the right name? Jackie Wald's the daughter of Eileen Morris, is now the secretary treasurer, and she produces a newsletter. In January, I got a newsletter that they weren't having meetings still because of COVID. They didn't have a meeting up to that point until for over a year. So in January, I got a newsletter, and in that newsletter, there were officers. There was a president, a vice president, secretary treasurer, and they had no meeting, even though they were supposed to have one and elect officers. Their next meeting was May, but in May, sometime between January and May, they had a secret meeting that they didn't tell any about and had elected new officers. So they're required to have 6 directors on their board. They have 2. They're required to submit financial statements. They do not. I asked in the meeting in May for the previous meeting's minutes when they elected officers, and I was asked to leave. When I pursued that, she told me that that I was no longer a member. She kicked me out of the Emmons County Historical Society, which neither of those things she could do under the bylaws. I told her and the people at the meeting that I was going to ask the Attorney General to give an opinion on their not doing minutes and so on, so what we're required by law to do for meetings that are publicly funded. And she said no. And so I did that. I submitted a request to the Attorney General's office, and that's going to take its own course. But I'm here today because the only way that they will be brought to heel to abide by their own bylaws is if the county cuts their funding, because you're their only source of funding. And so I'm here today to request that you do that. Now, you're more than welcome to give them time to respond, to my allegations or whatever. But the fact remains that they don't even know what their bylaws are. When I asked Jackie to produce them, she said she'd have to find them. But anyway, that's why I'm here, and that's my request. Is there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Clarence?
I just have a question. I don't know if it's specifically for Clarence, but if I'm correct, is it a 0.25% mill? I think,
0.25.
how much?
0.25.
Yeah, a quarter percent mill. And I'm assuming that was voted in by the people. I mean, that wasn't just given by whoever was commissioner at the time it was started. I'm assuming that went up for vote and the people voted for that?
I believe the commissioners voted for that.
You don't think so?
No, the commissioners voted for it.
Okay.
The commission can approve up to a quarter.
I believe it was 19, according.
Or 3/4 of a mil after a vote, so they could.
Because it would have been, the point was, if it was a voted mill, it's gotta be probably back to the people to decide to rescind it.
Right, I believe it was 1976, it's in the it's in the early copies of the bylaws.
Okay.
When I had access to the files prior to my resignation, I went through the bylaws and had made a note of updating them in the meetings, because there's just so many inconsistencies. While Secretary Treasurer, we had a vote to increase the dues, the annual membership dues from $5 to $10. They've been $5 since it was founded, and it's 2020, I mean, then it was 2018. Took a vote, agreed, yes, we're gonna raise it to 10, and there's been nothing in any of the meetings since, but they've gone back to 5. Same with the lifetime membership was 50, we raised it to 100, but they've gone back to 50 without having a vote or having it in the meeting minutes or anything. So the primary source of funding is Emmons County. It was by the commission voting, and I believe it was 1976. Of course, this was back when Mrs. Woods was the president of she was, I think, the founding president of the society. Aaron, you have any questions?
I'm just going through looking through the budget, so I'm not.
Oh.
I mean, I'm just listening to you, I don't have any specific questions, I guess.
And I believe like at the last meeting, I know you didn't come in for the last meeting for whatever reason. So
Right. I'm a 100% disabled veteran.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just my disability.
But at that time, Jackie was there either as a bystander or wanted to rebuttal anything you had to say. She's not here today. In all fairness, you know, if you wanted to pursue this, I think they should have a chance to give her side also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
I get it.
No, I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Clarence.
Anybody here that wants to offer a rebuttal to Clarence's comments, allegations? Go ahead, want to step up to the podium, please?
Hi, I'm James Klein, I guess you all know me. Okay, you heard what Clarence said. Okay, in all the community of the museum, everything is voluntary. Okay, if nobody wants to volunteer for anything, what are you gonna do? One person has to do everything, right? So how can you demand things if it's not there, if nobody's there to do it? When one person has to be in charge of the whole thing? And all he's been doing is causing trouble for the whole town. And you guys all know that too. Who's next on the list? He's not gonna quit. Okay.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else? Yeah, just go ahead. Is there something? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd just like to add that our minutes are up to date. The only thing that we haven't done by our bylaws is that our bylaws state that we have to have a president and a vice president. We have been operating with a joint presidency, which we will change when we meet in February, when we can change our bylaws. We haven't had a full board because we didn't have members. That part is true. And from what I'm told, there's no record of Clarence being a member. He said he paid his dues. There is no record of that we know of. And that was when he was vice president, treasurer. If he paid him, he didn't put it in the books. So, that's all I know.
I think for the record, it'd maybe be good if you supplied a copy of the bylaws and maybe your last minutes, just to the county commission, just so we have that on record with the situation, so. Would you
We
be
can
able to
work on
provide
that.
those? Okay.
Now, last minutes.
Yeah, just your last meeting's minutes, whenever that was, and then a copy of your bylaws, just submit them to Marlis, just so we have them on record 2 years, so.
I can call Jackie and tell her to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm the vice president, so, I mean, I am the vice president, so I can tell her, I can ask her to do that. I can give her a call.
Okay.
She's not doing it today, because she had a doctor's appointment, but she would have came.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but I mean, whenever at your earliest convenience, if you could submit copies of that, that'd be great.
Okay.
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 Thanks, sir.
Anybody else have anything to add on the subject? Anybody else? Commissioners?
Do we have to make a deny the request, motion, or we just?
I don't think so. The main thing, I guess, just going forward, so looking at the budget, it looks like the Historical Society received somewhere in the neighborhood of about $12,000 in
Yeah,
tax funds.
It's
I guess what I'm curious to see more than anything would be, what the outcome of the Attorney General's opinion would be on this, since Clarence has already submitted that. In something like this, I would probably lean on a higher court's opinion or something. I don't know, Joe, what do you? If there's a request for an Attorney General's opinion, it seems like that'd be the most.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. I was waiting to see what that entails. I know Clarence had made a request for Attorney General's opinion a few years back concerning the LEC, and that Attorney General's opinion came back and said, yeah, there was 1 or 2 things about noticing the meeting that they could probably show up, and so maybe there's some things, procedurally that the Historical Society can show up. Nobody's perfect, and as long as we get things squared away, you guys are comfortable continuing. Obviously, if the investigation determines there's something terrible going on, then take further action, I guess.
Well,
Jackie, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I forgot to add, Jackie has been in touch with the Attorney General's office.
Okay, so there is some kind of a,
Yeah,
they're
they've
looking
done back
into it.
and forth, I don't know what they've
Okay.
discussed, but I know she has been in touch with them.
Well, I think it would be a little early for us to make any kind of decision when you already have the Attorney General's office doing some kind of due diligence on it, so. I'd say for the time being, basically there's an allegation, there's a defense for it, and it's being checked into by a higher office. I'd say waiting until that information comes in would be the most prudent move at this point, so unless anybody else has anything else to offer. I'd say waiting for the opinion of the Attorney General. I don't know, Joe, do you have access to those when they come available, or is there something you can put in a request for?
They do get published usually.
Okay, so we would find out, like we could.
Yeah, it depends if that's one that gets published or not, or, otherwise, unless Clarence or the Historical Society provides, you probably won't get looped in.
That's what I'm saying, can you make a request to be looped in, basically, or just a?
Yeah, I'll try to do something of the sort. I don't know how to go about that, but I'm sure
Just
figure it out.
ask nicely, maybe?
Sure they'll CC me in if I ask.
Well, that's what I'm just curious on, because that's, an opinion from the Attorney General is as good opinion as anything on this, as far as procedure, what's right, what's wrong. Make a decision based off of that, I guess, would be unless anybody else has anything, so.
And my guess is just about any board in the county, if the AG's office is looking into the procedures, they're probably gonna get a point or two, so.
Well, right, there's a big difference between noticing some errors and some actual serious issues, and that's, this board as well as anybody is probably guilty of small infractions, whether it's minutes, procedure. It's the serious things, like if they're actually violating some serious law, issues with their funding where you could actually look at rescinding something, but if it's just procedural stuff, it's tough, so. Okay, well, I think for now, I don't think we're gonna take any action until we hear from the Attorney General, so. Unless anybody has anything else to add, that's the end of this. Okay. Thanks for coming in. Well, no other issues before the agenda. I would say the bills, and I'd say let's get out of here if we get the chance. bring in the middle.
Yep.
Are you taking off, Joe? Okay, well, I'm stealing this one. So I can move to the end. Yeah, Dave can sit, I'll just sit on the end here, Dave can sit in his spot at mine, so that way we don't have to pass him back and forth, let's get him signed.
Well, hopefully I'll write a talk. I guess you're tired of giving all
You can keep it, I got it, I'm mailing it to you.
museum. And then the thing is, she's gathered and organized and everything else.
Paul?
She get rid of it, they thought this was
Paul.
$50,000.
We're still recording and everything, so just so you know, if you're speaking, it's fine, just audio's still on. That's your spot if you want. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, I could probably.
Just my opinion.
Yeah. It's hard to say, I mean, you're just gonna throw the dirt to the side and stuff. For it to move in and dig for an hour, it'd probably be less than.
Up there. I can't take a nap up there.
Can't see that.
I can't take a nap.
You should always turn around the other way.
Back when you're making faces at you guys, you know, you're
I think we should be all sit on this side of the table looking at you.
Okay.
You guys, don't watch the video because that makes a weird face.
Yeah, you just better.
While he's yawning, he
Side,
just will
get from the side, otherwise you're trying to. Yeah, I gotta do some.
So do you guys like this? Don't you?
I can't hear it.
Yeah.
No, I don't like it. I hate it.
But I don't
I don't
like
like
it.
Yeah, I can do
It's so easy just for me to run into my office and grab stuff.
Oh.
That's okay.
I think it's awesome.
I don't, no, I hate it.
You guys wanna be here then, next month?
I don't know.
I don't.
I like the old place better too.
Well, what's the biggest complaint? Because if it's audio, I think we could hear a speaker that probably does something, or can't we?
I don't hear it.
We can't tie it.
I can't see Marlis, for one thing.
That's a good thing. That's the biggest, that's the biggest thing.
This audio is tied into the judges stuff, so we can't add speakers. Could maybe add another microphone.
See, when they talk out there, off to the side, you can hear them better than.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Yeah, it amplifies it back there, so if people sitting back there, could hear way better than you, you know?
Like when they talk, sometimes.
Yeah, I wanted to be here though. That way when you're done
We
looking
tested
at it,
it,
I
but
can
it's
just
different
sign
when
it.
there's only
So,
4 or
no,
5
you
of us
take
in
that
here,
spot. That's
and
good.
It's quiet, you know, so it sounded fine. It's like, but for me and Craig's sake, it'd be nice to know if we're doing it here, because it did take a while to set up, and if he's gonna want to get that other table. And I know we got the budget hearing at the end of next meeting, right?
I thought it was awesome that we could have people in here, and then you don't have to move and it's not.
We got the
crowded.
auditorium, or up here at the end of next month, right? It's-
Well, yeah, you're not gonna have it in that room the next month probably anyway, but you're gonna
Yeah.
the taxi and stuff, you're gonna have to move it at some point, so. I don't know. I vote to keep it here, but I'm not the only one, so.
I
too cold there.
I like it.
Oh, we can change
It
that.
could be 5 degrees cooler in
But if
here.
it was
I
warmer.
like the other place better.
Okay. No, I like the other place. Other?
Other place.
I like the other place.
So we're saying next month, set up commissioner's room and then either move the auditorium.
I think I'm sitting up here and then we'll set up like a webcam maybe and then you
Or
guys
they can sit down there.
One guy can sit here, I'll just sit here by myself and you guys can talk to everybody and I'll just sit here.
We'll have everybody here.
No, yeah, that's what you'd do. You'd send everybody up here, wouldn't you? Yeah, you would.
I kinda liked it that I'm off to the side.
I don't like that. I like to see wireless.
I like it that I'm off to the side. Maybe I can do that in the commissioner's room.
First, we got money back, I can't believe.
Put these out of order. Don't go grabbing them, I'm not going
I think it's because we have to move this commissioner's room.
to. We'll keep them in order. So Josh did do some research on that 82nd and a half like we talked about for the Vogels there. There is an easement there. They did that easement the same time they did the one going to John. So 82nd and a half all got done at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So Leonard, that Josh found an easement for that 82nd and a half.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Oh.
It got done the same time as John Richter's road and that other, that whole piece got done, so. So that is county right away there too. Don't curse it. What's the DHS fiscal year? Is that this indirect payments for the social service board? We received that. $144,000.
What they did is, they accidentally put money in our account.
So we got transferred over. All we did is transfer. Okay. I was gonna say that's a big amount. No, that means it's an accounting issue. Okay.
They accidentally gave it to us.
Fair enough.
So we're gonna meet downstairs the next month then, is that what we're doing? Are we gonna need to use the auditorium, do you think, at 5:30?
Oh, we'll have to, I'm sure. I mean,
I'll have to check with Josh to see if it's available, or Josh, great. What if it's not available, then what do you wanna do?
I'll have it up here then, huh?
I'll be your garage.
Ours is new garage.
We could have those meetings up here. Is that something you guys want recorded?
I think so. So should we do this? You guys, I'm just asking, you guys wanna meet downstairs, but if the auditorium's not open, should we proceed with meeting up here again, month of October?
That's what I would do.
Should we do that?
I
Because
think,
what are we gonna do if the auditorium's not open? You have to accommodate the people.
You come up here.
here's what I think. I think we should have the meeting here next month one more time with the audio equipment and have the tax meeting and everything here. And then after that, if you wanna go back down again. Because if we gotta go and move venues and all that, you're not gonna be able to record the tax meeting, which is what people would like to have recorded.
No, we could.
I think we should keep it here one more month then. And then after that, if we still decide we wanna go downstairs, then, because next month's gonna be a public hearing, one way or the other.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, that way we don't have to move everything, we can get it all recorded. Fair enough?
That's fair.
Okay. Then after that, if we wanna go back downstairs, summer heat will be over, then I can go downstairs. It's way more comfortable in here, it's cooler, it's nice up here. I think it's nice. Oh, this is that gravel right on the county line, right?
I never thought there was up there. There's no hole in there.
I like it up here. That's all right. People love this recording, though, I'll tell you that. I think it's good too.
table down there, so I can be back there, and I like to do that.
So did the Supreme Court make a ruling yet on the term limits? I know they just had it on Friday, but they gotta be ruling on it soon, because they gotta get it on, if it's gonna be on the ballot. It's gotta be-
By 4 o'clock today,
So they gotta make a ruling
and we do it
today,
today.
right? Wonder if they made a ruling.
How come now it's just
They had a hearing on Friday, right?
How come now this was an issue?
I was gonna do it.
Payments paid forward for this.
Well, that was work back here, I suppose. on-
Yeah, no, it was nice, it was a nice
Unquote.
weekend. Did you guys go to the gospel brunch? Oh, you should go to that, that's good. Good food, and then the singers are from the musical, and they sing gospel music for it now, it's really good.
Margaret, you have to register for this,
What is it?
at DOT?
No,
I did register.
You can just show up.
I did register you guys.
Oh, 'cause I'll probably attend it.
Right, you can just attend the DOT meeting,
Yeah.
but if you
Oh,
wanna
but
go
if
to the
you-
conference, then you.
No, at the conference, no, just the DOT, yeah.
No, I
Yeah, you
had,
can just go
I
with
made that appointment for you guys.
Yeah, no, that appointment, yeah, you can go whenever you want.
Nobody from Emmons is going to that association of counties. I go, but we're having our commissioners meeting Tuesday.
When is this other meeting?
Well, no, during the convention is when they have the meeting, like, so
Yeah.
that's where it's kinda all wrapped in one, so everybody's in town, they make it easier for everybody, but you can just attend the DOT meeting if you don't wanna go to the convention. I don't know, I feel like that convention should be in the dead of winter too, though, they kinda have it during the busy season for everybody, you kinda have to, I mean, October's harvest time, it's everything.
Commission meeting time.
But then every convention's in the middle of winter, so I suppose they have a hard time fitting it all in, huh?
Well, the winter time, they worry about the roads, for sure.
Yeah. No. Did go off the boat, cold, but
Did you?
it was alright. I want to take us to that Napa open house. And it was our anniversary, so we went off for our anniversary, so. It was nice.
Take the little one along.
No. No,
That's the dog with the little one, right?
well, she's tough on things. I think she would probably bring the door to the ground. She's a ball of energy. I think maybe next year or something, she'd be a little bit older, I think she'd enjoy it. She's a little on the young side. That and the musical on Saturday night is 2 hours long. It's a little shorter.
Where did they go?
We went to the late one, and that was 10:30 by the time we got, and that was their time, so actually 11:30 our time, so we're pretty tired. That hour time difference sure is a big deal, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't think it'd be.
It's nice on the way out.
I know, but on the way home, you're like, oh my gosh, it's 3 in the afternoon when you get home, well, yeah, well, you lose that hour. It's a 3-hour drive home if you don't stop. It's a nice little trip. I mean, it's not a huge, long drive, and we broke it up by stopping in Bismarck, so it's not so bad. Well, we had the fondue on Friday, and we had tickets to the fondue, so we went to that. And then Saturday, we ate at Theodore's, that's in the Rough Rider Hotel.
Okay.
That was really good. Yeah, they opened at 5 o'clock, so we went down there like 5 after 5, half hour later. We're like, what? And we thought we were gonna like be early, you know?
It's crazy.
It was a really good restaurant, though. It's a little on the expensive side, but that's all right. It was our anniversary, you know, spring. Well, that made free tickets to the musical and everything else too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, that was a part of that package, we had free tickets to the musical. The fondue.
When we went out there, we had tickets for the 5:30 show. And I can't read it out. So they said, you can do the rain policy.
So Gary never even said one, but
You
one of the
get two
sheriff's.
for the price of one.
Oh, he didn't hear, he didn't think so. And there
Were you
was,
get your fun?
a stub in there for pay.
Well, we even
so-
tried to get
So it's not true?
tickets to the 8:30 show.
Sure.
Maybe not.
I went running to the building, I got one, and Tom comes in there and he says, this is what we're doing. I said, well, we're gonna stand on it. We're gonna find out, we're gonna take it so we get. So we actually got a
This is it, right?
ticket up close with my husband. So we finish it.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, no, I went at that open house for Napa. And I went in there and just put my name in the drawing, I won that. I thought it was a pretty good deal.
When you went to that open house, didn't you?
Yeah, I went in there, I just thought I was gonna have or something by signing up and I won the grand prize.
Good for you.
Which is good because I didn't win anything on the 4-H raffle, it was kind of bummed
I
out.
didn't either.
I was kind of like, God darn it, my luck's that bad. Well, then here I won the Napa thing, so I had to quit complaining. So.
Kind of trailer they
I think they rented at the hall.
I actually had to, I got picked for federal jury duty,
The hall excavator.
but I had to, had an appointment, I was a dentist or something, I had something I couldn't get out, so they did excuse me for it, but, yeah, I got a letter one day and they're like, yeah, you can federal jury duty sometime between like August and September 30th or something. Here I got summons, and I'm like, actually, and I wanted to do it, because I thought federal court in Bismarck would be kind of neat, but said it could take up to 2 weeks, I'm like, there's just no way with
Yeah.
I mean, if I had 10 hired helpers, I could probably do it, but my gosh, I'd have to shut my whole business down for 2 weeks, I can't do that. And then, like I said, I had several medical and chiropractor appointments, just can't readjust your whole body for that. I did get excused, thank God, 'cause that's pretty heavy. I've been in like 3 days or something. Well, you know how you get out of jury duty, right? You don't vote. And you don't get, that's what,
But that's not how they get it anymore.
I know, but that's what some people tell me when I'm like, oh, I don't vote, I want to do jury duty. I'm like, really? That's your reason for not voting?
I thought it was they pulled it from your date of birth or something.
What is such a horrible, yeah, I don't vote because I don't want to do jury duty. I had a couple people say that, I'm like, are you sure that's how it works?
They were told that once and they believed it.
Yes. What a bad reason not to vote though, like, this, I don't know.
Ooh, there's one. Ooh. Blank. Dave. Nope. See right here, look at all this.
Yeah.
Nothing on that one. I don't know.
John signed off, we will sign off.
Yeah. Now, what do you do? This and I'll look at it. I'm all set. I brought that up one time, now look. Look at that. See? Oh.
She said she thought she'd be coming to I told her that desk was hers.
Wow. I think Mark River is. Thank you.
If you guys are done looking at them, I'm gonna entertain a motion to adjourn if you guys want to take off.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to adjourn?